between these two quarterbacks in the postseason. In the NFC, it's a divisional matchup as the Washington Commanders, led by rookie quarterback Jayden Daniels, facing the Philadelphia Eagles, led by running back Saquon Barkley, who had over 2,000 yards rushing this season. College football national title game tonight. It's Ohio State against Notre Dame, the conclusion of the first year of the 12-team playoff. In golf, Sepp Straka won the American Express at La Quinta, California on the PGA Tour Sunday, firing a final round 70 to finish at 25 under par, good for a two-shot win over Justin Thomas.
Bundle auto and home, renters or condo, and save with Progressive. I'm Chuck Sanders, and that's your Sports Flash.
This sandwich is not just spicy, it's flavorful.
Hi, this is Matayo.
And this is Elsa.
And a little thing I love about the Chick-fil-A Grilled Spicy Deluxe Sandwich is that spicy kick. Because the spice comes in at just the right moment.
Oh, no. A little thing I love is that cilantro lime sauce. It's a fun blend of zesty and bold. That's what really makes me happy. Are you going to eat all your fries?
Order a Chick-fil-A Grilled Spicy Deluxe Sandwich and a Diet Dr. Pepper on the Chick-fil-A app for a limited time. Real guests paid for their testimonials.
After you use Bounce Dryer sheets and realize how fresh, soft, less wrinkled, and less staticky your laundry can be, you'll every time. Like those socks that smell like they've been through a marathon. Or that blanket that's got wrinkles on its wrinkles. Maybe even your chatty coworker who keeps distracting you. Okay, Bounce Dryer sheets can't do it all. But for fresher, softer, better laundry,
Smart is coming back. The days of just picking teams based on a coin toss are over. You need the latest stats, odds, and information. Make a plan. It's smarter to be on SportsGrid. Well, duh. This is the SportsGrid Radio Network.
The only place in football where the offense is always on the field is on Moneyline. With the two best hosts in radio, Donnie Rightside.
If anybody wasn't watching, listen, I don't know what you were doing.
And Kevin Walsh.
Forget act like you've been there before.
On the SportsGrid Radio Network, Sirius XM Channel 159.
Act like you've been there before. It's a Tuesday. I haven't been here before. It's been a long time since your boy DRS showed up on a Tuesday here for Moneyline, but here we are. This is what happens when football winds down. We actually get back to our normal circumstances here, Monday through Friday for your boy DRS. Going to be a lot of fun to continue, but it's Kevin Walsh, Donnie Rightside, the best hour every day. It is underway. It is Moneyline and a lot of hot topics. Yes, we are going to continue to talk about the AFC and NFC championship games on Sunday. Lines are moving. Who's in, who's out, who's banged up, who's not banged out, and can you get value early in the week? But the biggest sporting event yesterday by far was the college football championship. We're going to talk about this game, what happened during the game, bets that were won and lost. Did you love the college football playoff? And certainly where this leaves us for next year. So even though it is a Tuesday, we have a lot of good topics to talk about here, which includes, Kevin, head coaches on the move.
Yeah, we definitely got a lot to get to. But Notre Dame last night in the national championship game. Yeah. And, you know, it's one of those things where that opening drive was so fun. Yes. And it felt like, man, this could be a good time. And Ohio State's response was great, but it wasn't devastating, right? Mm-hmm. It wasn't like 4 plays, 75 yards, good luck, we'll do this every single possession. And then Notre Dame got hit with a holding penalty on the second drive, and I truly do think it was an atrocious call. I'm not telling you that's why they lost. They lost to a great football team.
Because I know you tweeted that out because I was running an errand picking my daughter up, so I was listening on the radio. Mm-hmm. Was it a big play by Notre Dame, or what actually happened on the holding call? Because when I got back, they were like 3rd and 15 or whatever on their own, like 15 or something like that.
Yeah, so it was 2nd and 15, I want to say. And Riley Leonard escaped pressure, picked up a 12 or 13-yard pass. Okay. And it would have been 3rd and 2. And they picked up,
who was it, by the way?
I want to say Bo Collins, but I'm not positive on that.
All right.
But basically, Donnie, they had just picked up 100 3rd and 2s on the opening drive. You pick up a first down, and you just kind of go from there. Ohio State gets the football back. They score. It's like, man, all right, we got to get this possession going.
Yeah.
And a 3rd and 5, they're probably about to run quarterback power again. You know, the tight ends running across, the fumbled snap. And the next thing you know, due to the amount of time that was taken up, Donnie. Ohio State made it 21-7 and got the football to start the half. Like, I am not, again, I think that Notre Dame ultimately, almost covering was about right. I think Ohio State's a better football team.
Yes.
But it was 2 instances that stopped Notre Dame from even having what was, a real chance at it all in that first half. And they're such small moments that you have to be watching the game kind of, through a certain lens to even have stick with you. But they are sticking with me this morning.
Now, I'm back to sort of like normalcy, which is great. Like for months, September, October, November, December, January, 5 months. Monday night, I'm driving. I don't get home till 1 a.m. I'm exhausted Tuesdays. That's why I'm back Tuesdays. I don't have to work prime time on Monday night. But still, I like to wind down my night. And after a weekend where I'm up in the studio twice, it's a lot of driving. Gambling doesn't really take a lot off my life. Fandom takes a little bit more off. And that Eagles game was just pacing back and forth. I was exhausted Sunday, so sort of catching up yesterday. So I said, you know what? I haven't been doing all that well. I didn't have a great gambling weekend Saturday and Sunday. Some crushing defeats, some ridiculous losses. It happens. We all go through that stuff. So I said, you know what? I don't even know if I want to bet this game. So Bet365 Kev pops up. Hey, man, come on back. One more time. 50% boost up to $120 right up my alley. But when I look at these games, I go, I'm going to outsmart myself. I know I am. It's a lower total, 45.5. Now, the game went way over. We'll get to that in just a little bit. But I said, where can I spend my money and maximize it? So you know how I do it. I don't watch every college football game, but I know numbers and I know what makes some sense. And you sort of play into it. So first one bet I took a look at, which I liked on my triple option, which I went 2-1. I'll go over those bets in a little bit. It was Notre Dame's team total over 16.5. So I, like you, was listening in the car while I was picking up my daughter. Come on. Don't get stopped. You got to get points here. They scored that. I didn't care that it took them 10 minutes to score. That's 7. That shows that they can move the football. That means that their defense can make some plays, get good field position. I need a field goal, another touchdown. I'm going to cash that. So the second part of this was for me, I'm saying, you know what? How can I maximize using players themselves? You know me, buying low. Quinshon Judkins to rush Kevin for 20 yards in the game. 11 for 100. But understand this. You know how you watch games play out. Trayvon Henderson starts. He's getting the carries. Judkins has like 10 yards in the first. I'm like, I know he's going to get his 20, but this should have been like, hey, second carry of the game, 17 yards. I'm not worried about it. And I wasn't, but I'm saying, like, isn't this going to be fun? The third guy involved in this was Mitchell Evans at tight end. He gets 20 yards receiving. This was the one I looked at and said, my game script, Kevin, is Ohio State's going to win the game. I think Notre Dame might be able to keep it close. But if Notre Dame gets around 20 points, which I thought they would, they do it all year long, even against quality competition, they're going to get extra yards to throw for. He's got like 1 for 8 in the first half. Second half, I get a little bit nervous. I'm not watching the game. I turn it off. I'm sort of like trying to wind down for the night. And then I say, I'm not even going to get this team total. Because the fourth quarter happens, Kevin. They drive all the way down, and I get the update on my phone. It's 4th and 9. So 4th and goal. They're down 2 touchdowns. He's never going to kick this. I don't turn the game on because I'm superstitious and I'm like, I hope the touchdown pops up. When I saw missed 27-yard field goal, I almost fell out of bed saying, I got a gift from the gambling gods of stupidity from a head coach, and I didn't even get a 27-yard field goal. So then I go, all right, no big deal. I'm going to lose that. And then I see the catch on the final 2 drives where you get Mitchell Evans to go over 20 yards. I'm going, there's no way they're going to score a touchdown now, are they? And they score the late touchdown. So things went, so it's like to say, I got burned so badly in that Eagles game that it was nice to say, I just missed a 27-yard field goal. Now they have to score a touchdown. They're not going to score, and I'm going to lose that game. That's how I made money last night. Thank goodness.
Yeah, that is you deserve that, right? So it is good that it came in. I will say on the other side of it, Donnie, what Ohio State covering doesn't bother me as much, right? Because they were better, right? It's the inverse of Kansas City against the Houston Texans for me.
Yeah.
However, it's 3rd and 10. We're at the 2-minute warning. Here's what happens in that situation. We're catching 8.5. They're up 8. Either Notre Dame gets a stop and we cover. Who knows? Maybe we're going to overtime. Or they pick up a first down and the game is over.
30, 40 yards, no problem. Get 30 or 40 yards, no problem.
2 more yards than they could go, eliminate the chance for another first down, but pick up the first down. They had to kick the field goal. That was a very difficult thing because, listen, it was going to be a bad night for me even if Notre Dame covered.
Yeah.
And that's before you factor in being a Notre Dame fan.
Mm-hmm.
To then lose the cover like that was a real tough blow.
They're the toughest ones to take because, again, you already explained how I lost those games with the Eagles, where you say to yourself, like, throughout the game, like, they're probably not going to cover. I might get a chance. They score the touchdown, like, I still got to get a 2-point conversion. And they get the 2-point conversion. So then you're right. You go right into that mode of, if this game plays out the way it is, where you're just looking to pick up first downs and avoid the home run. And you can't, like, I understand Notre Dame fans, and like, well, why would you go, like, zero coverage on the outside? You're selling out for the run. And also, if they make that big play and their play is going to be throw it deep and it's incomplete, boy, we got our timeout. We got the 2-minute timeout, and away we go with a chance to win it. And then I saw him get tackled at the 9. I'm like, this was the absolute worst because I would rather just score the touchdown at that point. Give us a full 2 minutes and a timeout to get a junk touchdown to get back within that number. Disastrous scenario, but the Buckeyes were the best team in the country, and they proved it. Much more on that game and also other hot topics around the sports landscape. It's Moneyline.
We're the club you want to join, even though we'd have you as a member.
You'll like it here. We have munchies.
And the winning edge. This is the SportsGrid Radio Network.
Residents across the country are bracing for dangerously low temperatures while the East Coast contends with a thick blanket of snow and the South prepares for a rare winter storm expected to disrupt travel into Wednesday. With the SportsGrid News Flash, I'm Trey Westerberg. This update brought to you by Progressive. Winter storm warning stretch from Texas to Florida on Monday with heavy snow, sleet, and freezing rain expected in the region into Wednesday. Heavy lake effect snow is expected in western New York State Monday through Wednesday morning with 1 to 2 feet possible in some areas. Donald J. Trump was sworn in as the 47th President of the United States on Monday. Trump takes charge as Republicans claim unified control of Washington. Speaking in the Capitol Rotunda Monday, Trump promised sweeping change to, quote, completely and totally reverse the Biden era and pledged to pursue policy that expands U.S. territory, including putting U.S. astronauts on Mars. I'm Trey Westerberg with the SportsGrid News Flash.
Progressive presents Renter's MVP's Most Valuable Possessions. Today's MVP, Tom Kelly's carbon fiber mountain bike. Because more than riding his carbon fiber mountain bike, Tom loves telling people about his carbon fiber mountain bike. Friends, family, even a local barista knows about his carbon fiber mountain bike. And that's why Tom's carbon fiber mountain bike, if you haven't heard about it, is today's MVP. Keep your most valuable possessions protected by bundling your renters and auto insurance with Progressive. Progressive Casualty Insurance Company affiliates and other insurers not available in all states.
That spice is 10 out of 10. Would recommend. Hi, my name is Khadijah, and a little thing I love about the Chick-fil-A Grilled Spicy Deluxe Sandwich is that spicy kick of the chicken. It's just the right amount of heat, and it gets me excited. And then, pro tip, add that cilantro lime sauce. It cools it down. If the sandwich is at 100, the cilantro lime takes it to 200. It makes me want to, like, tell all my friends and family.
Order a Chick-fil-A Grilled Spicy Deluxe Sandwich and a Diet Dr. Pepper on the Chick-fil-A app for a limited time. Real guests paid for the
You've heard of smart bombs,
Smartphones, smart cars, smart watches, and smart glasses.
Now you can add smart player.
Giving you sports gaming strategies and information 24/7.
It's smarter to be on SportsGrid.
This is the SportsGrid Radio Network.
We are going to get to those NFL hot topics in just a few moments. Head coaching changes, head coaching hires. Will we get another one today? I thought we would get one yesterday, and we did. We'll get to that in just a moment. But the focus still, Ohio State 34, Notre Dame 23. Exciting all the way through. And thank goodness that we're allowed to bet on these games. Because unless you're an Ohio State fan or Notre Dame fan, you probably would have checked out of that one. But you had intrigue right up to the final kick here, an extra point. Made money last night for myself. Went 2-1. I took a fun bet, Kevin, which, again, came down to that last play. Either way, I was going to go 2-1 in my triple option. Over 17.5 points for Notre Dame, which did cash. But also had Notre Dame plus 8.5. But I had the fourth quarter, Kevin, over 10.5 points. They ended up with 11 points because they went for 2 and got it. And that late field goal basically said to myself, oh, no. I said, well, wait a second. He misses it. I win a bet.
He makes it, I win a bet. He misses one, I lose it. You get the point on that. So it didn't matter.
Yep.
It was 2-1 for me on that. Hit my parlay. Great night all the way through. But if you would have told me like the box score before the game, hey, Donnie, Riley Leonard's going to go 22 of 31 for 255 and 2 touchdown passes, I would have said to myself, the next question would have been like, well, I know they probably had a decent ground game now because they were balanced. Jadarian Price, 3 for 13. Jeremiah Love, 4 carries for 3 total yards. That's where the game was won and lost, not because they couldn't make enough plays. You needed, and Notre Dame got them all season long, Kevin, the explosive running plays to help you.
Yeah.
They got none of that last night.
And I was stunned by that. I thought that they would have explosive runs in this game. They put themselves in some bad windows, though, as the game progressed, Donnie.
Mm-hmm.
You know, so the opening drive, they ran it 13 times for 44 yards.
Mm-hmm.
Look at that final box score.
Yeah.
I mean, you know, they finished with, 53, 56 yards the rest of the way. They were throwing on some downs where they shouldn't have been throwing, and they put themselves behind it. I want to ask you about the Freeman field goal decision.
Yes.
Because I was truly speechless, right?
Mm-hmm.
You know, sometimes we go, man, I'm speechless, but it's like you're talking. Like, you could ask like Ben and Joe. I didn't talk for about 8 minutes. Like Ben, and I appreciated it. Ben just started talking to Joe. And then he checked. He's like, Kev, if by chance I could ask what's going through your head. Because one, you know, and you're similar to me, like dumb decisions like that when we do these in-game lives, Donnie, like me and you lose our minds about, right?
Yes.
Like that should have been a run, that should have been a pass, that should have been a go for it, that should have been a punt. That decision, Donnie, the point I basically made to Ben, I go, that wasn't even a decision. There was 0 people watching like, hey, do you think we should kick a field goal or go for it? It was...
Mm-hmm.
I found it to be so awful. And I don't even know. I didn't look for the Freeman explanation. You know, again, I imagine it was, look, ultimately getting 2 touchdowns and 2 2-point conversions is going to be tough. Let's get points while we can. But man, Donnie, I was mortified watching Notre Dame step up there for a field goal.
You needed a touchdown in that spot. Everybody knew that. And sometimes there is something to be said, Kevin. What do you want me to do? It was 4th and 19. Like, I'm going to go for it. We're not going to get it.
Yeah.
I might as well field goal. I have a veteran field goal kicker that's made some big kicks in the playoffs. We'll keep the momentum there. We'll keep the pressure on Ohio State by keep scoring. But from me, a selfish perspective, I was literally getting a gift from the gods at that moment that went up in flames. It's almost like the gambling gods go, this decision is so stupid, man. Move that field goal post over so it hits off it. Like, this can't happen. You can't make that decision. I understand sort of what Notre Dame was doing, but there was nobody in the crowd at the game cheering on East Side, because trust me on this. You got an Ohio State 8.5 ticket there? You see the field goal kick? He's going to call, this got to be a fake. He kicked, even if it made it. Like, yes, that's the greatest decision I've ever seen. No way, shape, or form that should have happened. None.
And I mean this. I imagine a big part of Mitch Jeter missing is how crazy the decision was. Like, Donnie probably wasn't warming up on the sideline
the whole way. Yep. Like there's never a chance I'm kicking again.
He's like, I'm not here to do anything. So this is great. Let me do my kickoff practice. Again, like, you know, the fake punt where everybody was like, just go for it normal wasn't great. But like, that's a whole different kind of bag, right? Like Notre Dame made some bad decisions last night. Man, I will say, what a crazy thing that the one thing I don't like, because I think there's a little dishonesty from the people who are giving Ryan Day a ton of credit. You can give him credit, but do acknowledge that he would have been fired rightfully if we didn't have the expanded format.
Yes, correct.
Him being fired would have been the correct decision for that program. Now, I give him a lot of credit. Their backs were against the wall. He would have been fired if he lost to Tennessee. I don't think they would have been fired if he lost to Oregon, but it would have been a weird feeling.
Yeah, it would have been one of those, let's leak out he's on the hot seat this year. You better start recruiting, and we'll get you a little bit more NIL money because this is your last go-around.
Yeah, I mean, that's, you know, that's where they were. Here's the other thing. We didn't get a chance to get into this last night, but it's a name that you know very well.
Yeah.
Chip Kelly?
Yes.
Like,
go on.
What's going on here? This guy can't possibly just be the offensive coordinator of a college football team.
No, he's going to find another job. Well, even if it's like, hey, the Detroit Lions job opens up here, let me just take that offensive coordinator spot. So there are spots where you're correct. It's one where Ryan Day is probably looking at this going like, lose my running backs, lose my quarterback, lose my coordinator, and I'm going to get fired if I don't win this game. But you're right about this is the best part about it too, because I tweeted out earlier, and my thoughts on the playoff were, even though Ohio State lost to Michigan. And you're right. Under the expanded, he wouldn't made it. He would have got fired within 12 hours, and the Ohio State fans would have loved it. Heck, the Ohio State fans were sort of hate watching the early parts of this playoff, going like, I don't think we're going to win it because Ryan Day. We lose it now, so I know we can fire him. And then, hey, he's the greatest coach of all time. He won us a championship, which, trust me, next year when they open up, let's just say 2-1, they're going to try to fire the guy again. They just don't like him at that point. And maybe got lucky, and the fact that he lost, it's almost like sometimes in fans' eyes, it's a tainted season. Like, yeah, we won the national championship, but we lost to Michigan. That's like, does that even mean we won the national championship? But I love the fact that they went through 4 really good teams to win it. No more are we doing the 1-game championship, 2-game championship. One team got really lucky by playing Washington at round 1, and the other team got upset. And it's like, this is ridiculous. I love the fact that these teams, for the majority, have to win 4 games against elite competition to win it. And it's much more satisfying. Like, I saw Ohio State win last night, and nobody can say, like, man, I got lucky. Like, they didn't get lucky. They were the best team to start the season, stumbled a bit, and won it in the end. Imagine Kansas City. They got 2 losses. Under most people's analogy, they shouldn't have made the NFL playoffs because they lost 2 games. Idiots out there. We'll be right back at the SportsGrid Network.
We never stop giving you sports gaming strategies and information 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. Business hours are for losers. This is the SportsGrid Radio Network. The SportsGrid Radio Network presents This Date in Sports History.
2007, the AFC Championship known as Manning's Revenge. The Colts beat the Patriots 38-34 as Indy overcame a 21-3 Pats lead.
Another running play. A dive walks in for the touchdown.
Indy scored 32 second-half points to finally knock out New England 38-34 en route to Peyton Manning's first Super Bowl.
For SportsGrid Radio, I'm Mike DeMurgis.
The Technology Minute with George Capalbo.
University of Bristol scientists have found humans working with robots trust them more when their movements are synchronized. Humans and robots work efficiently and actually build trust when the robots mirrored human movements. However, when that trust is damaged by a robot making a mistake, it's a nonverbal early warning sign that when trust between humans and robots is lost, their work together may not be as successful. Follow me at Chicapalvo on X and stay tuned to The Technology Minute for more cool stuff like this.
Football Full Circle.
Hey, let's not let John Harbaugh get off the hook here, Ben. When Derrick Henry rushes for 20 times or more, Baltimore is undefeated, 9-0. When he runs for 19 times or less, 4-6. And the last 2 drives, after they get back in the game and everything, he didn't touch the ball at all. I mean, it's crazy.
It's Football Full Circle with Ben Stevens and Scott Wetzel. Weekdays noon Eastern, 9 a.m. Pacific on the SportsGrid Radio Network. There, Sporto. We know you've been hurt in the past. Big stations with big promises lied to you, suckered you in. We don't do that. We're the real deal. You can take our information to the bank. This is the SportsGrid Radio Network.
Back at it here. Wrapping up the national championship game, moving forward to the NFC, AFC championship games this weekend. Notre Dame takes a loss. Ohio State gets the win. By the way, was Lisi on Greathouse? Who was he? Who was Lisi's guy last night? Was Mitchell it Egbuka in the running game?
No, yeah, right. No, it was Jeremiah Love as high as you could go, and then Mitchell Evans, who helped him out a few times. He went right back to Mitchell Evans. So yeah, that's where he was dialed in.
So the set was kind of down as hell at the half then, the way this game was playing out. 21-7, nothing from Notre Dame anywhere outside of Riley Leonard running the football.
Yeah, I mean, because for me, Donnie, my best bet ended up being the Notre Dame team total rushing yards. Yes. So again, first drive, this is the greatest game of all time.
Yes.
And then everything else from there was atrocious for me. Lisi kept clicking away on Jadarian Price through his number. Then he was clicking on, Notre Dame Moneyline and different things. So, he was.
They could come back. All right, I'm taking him. Plus 14.5, plus 16.5.
He was doing that thing, man, that he does. And it does drive me a little nuts. He goes, man, I just need 29 yards out of Jadarian Price.
Yes.
For a big hit. And I go,
yes,
buddy, like that is what you needed when you clicked that bet. But that's not even the point, Donnie, is he acts like, listen, man, he's having this great game, just a little bit more. It's like, Lisi, you bet him to get 40 plus when he was sitting at 11 yards. It's 30 minutes later. He is still at 11 yards. Stop saying you just need 29 yards. Like, he's not. Like, come on, man. But that's how he is. That's how he
pulled one of these when they were down 16. Like, all right, commercial break. Notre Dame's got the ball back down 2 touchdowns. What are you looking for this drive? Well, I'd open up the running game right now. I'd open up the running game.
He did do. I'll tell you what he did do. There was a third down for Ohio State on, I believe, the second drive of the game.
Yes.
Where he goes, I tell you it's interesting, but, they got Ohio State up to minus 12.5 now. And I go, listen, I love you. I'm not mad at you, but please move your laptop because you are now just spoiled for me that's a picked up third down. And he goes, but I go, listen, I'm not mad at you, but I'm begging you got to switch tabs because that it's not 12.5 and they're about to punt, Lise. So we did have that moment on the set, which was always a good time.
Yeah, I can't get away. I'm not rooting on this. All right, let's see what happens here. Now. Knowing what exactly had actually happened there is always a good time. But that puts a bow in the college football season. Great season. Went fast. I mean, granted, it was long. August, September, October, November, December, January, damn near into February in college football. And the one thing we were doing the tail of the tape, like on the seasons. And Ohio State, Kevin, went 14-2. They played 16 games in college football, which is what? Like, you say, hey, national champion, 9-1, 10-1. And then it turns out you get the playoff games. It's like we played 12 games in 16 game seasons. But I guess if you're paying them, you might as well get as many games in as possible. And everybody's fine and good, but no longer the days like, hey, we'll open up September 1st. Our last game will be November 14th. We'll wait a stupid-ass month and a half to play in January in our bowl game, and away you go.
But I think then, Donnie, it does kind of go to your point of let's stop playing Akron, let's stop playing Western Michigan, let's stop playing Marshall, right? Now, I don't mind it personally because I think I actually think it's a big part. It's a big draw for me in college football. I like when Georgia lays 55.5 to East Tennessee.
Yeah.
But it is truly like we have to get rid of conference title games. The national championship was between a team that didn't make their conference title game and a team that's not even in a conference.
Correct.
We have to get rid of them. The thing is, like, I'm not even doing the seeding talk anymore. Because we were so right about that the committee, who doesn't even like to make changes, immediately is like, we got to all sit in a room and figure out how to fix this. So I know those changes are coming, but the conference title ones, like, we need those ASAP, man.
Yes.
Got to get rid of them.
The conference titles didn't come in as we're going to help our conference. We're going to make college football better. They came in as a money grab. We can have an extra game at a neutral site with 2 fan bases, and we'll go to CBS and say, what do you think about the SEC championship game? Because this wasn't an NCAA rule, Kevin. Back in the day, it's like, okay, next year, everybody has a conference championship game. The SEC is like, our fans will buy this. We'll sell it to the network. We'll make more money. Everybody goes, you know what? We can get an extra game, neutral site. The Big 12 followed along, the ACC. Everybody fell on the Big 10. And now you're seeing like teams going like, we'd rather not play in this game because if we lose, we might be out. But if we don't play, we're actually in the playoff. Like, make that absolutely make sense. And it doesn't. And they'll eventually take that away, add a couple more teams in the playoff, make more money, and reason it away. So, in a way, it is. Love the college football season. It's done. National championship on the horizon. We're looking for the Super Bowl contenders and who they might be. Washington and Philadelphia, game number 1 on Sunday. Buffalo and Kansas City, game number 2 on Sunday. We'll hit those next.
You're listening to your source of sports gaming strategies and information.
We call it the winning edge.
It helps make the odds even. This is the SportsGrid Radio Network.
Progressive presents the Sports Flash. I'm Chuck Sanders. The Ohio State Buckeyes beat Notre Dame 34-23 last night in Atlanta to capture the college football playoff national championship. Notre Dame led at 7-0 after the first quarter, but the Buckeyes exploded for 21 points in the second quarter. They tacked on 10 more in the third and 3 more in the fourth. It's Ohio State's first national title since 2014. The Fighting Irish tried to rally. They were down 31-7, but scored a pair of touchdowns and 2 two-point conversions to make it a one-score game late in the fourth. It's the first time the Big Ten has taken back-to-back titles since 1942. Last year's champ was Michigan. Buckeyes quarterback Will Howard, 17 of 21 passing, 231 yards, 2 touchdowns. Buckeyes running back Quinshon Judkins ran the ball 11 times for 100 yards and 2 touchdowns. Riley Leonard, 22 of 31 passing, 2 touchdowns, 255 yards in the loss for Notre Dame. Bundle auto and home, renters, or condo and save with Progressive. I'm Chuck Sanders, and that's your Sports Flash.
Welcome to Staples.
I am so pumped. My business is going to kill it this year.
Awesome. How can I help?
First, a new computer.
With Staples Home and Office Hot Deals, you save big on tech.
And new posters.
Save on custom printing, too.
And,
a new chair?
A chair? Who has time to sit?
Maybe all your new clients?
Now you're talking.
With Staples Home and Office Hot Deals, you'll find huge savings on custom prints, storage, chairs, and tech. And now save up to $175 off your print order. Exclusions apply. Visit staples.com/print for details. Ends 2/1.
Progressive knows we all crave validation.
Girl, you are not 37.
I would have guessed 27.
You guys are too sweet.
Sure. Dewy skin. Terrific.
Is something wrong, Ned?
Why would you ask? Just because today marks my 10th anniversary without a car accident or even a speeding ticket? But somehow, tonight's all about your skincare.
Wow. With Snapshot from Progressive, you can get a personalized rate based on how you drive. And that's all the validation you need. Progressive Casualty Insurance Company and affiliates. Snapshot not available in California or from all agents. Surcharge possible.
Be the master of your domain. Get the SportsGrid mobile app so now you can get the winning edge while your wife is in a dressing room trying on stuff while you wait patiently on the uncomfortable chair. This is the SportsGrid Radio Network.
Party on, people. Washington, Philadelphia, Buffalo, Kansas City. Unbelievable. We got you covered on Pro Football today because we are going to get busy on Sunday morning, 9 a.m. live to 12. Right here on the network. Replay 12 to 3, I believe, as well, to get you set up. There's going to be excitement on the desk. Joe Leese is going to play the heel position with Jaden Daniels, and we're going to be Eagles fans. We're going to let this thing play out. But I can't get over this, too, because this is fun. Getting you updated on the numbers. This morning it was 5.5. While I was doing the early line, it moved to 6.5 at the FanDuel Sportsbook. So I always like to have fun and say, what's going on now? Because I was told once Sunday Night Football ended with the Eagles winning their divisional round matchup that I don't even know how the Eagles are favored in this game. Like, it's Washington. Like, Washington just beat Detroit. Great win. The Eagles are a little bit banged up. And then it was almost like we're going to open this line at 4.5, and cooler heads prevailed and goes, now, wait a second. The Eagles have the best defense in football. Jalen Hurts is going to play the next week. If you just give the ball to Saquon Barkley 20 times, he's guaranteed for 225 and multiple touchdowns here. They're at home at this point. What am I missing? Because there is a part of me that was like, I'm going to buy into that narrative. Is that going to open at 4.5, Kevin, and be 3.5 by Sunday? Now, granted, it would have been if Jalen Hurts was replaced for Kenny Pickett or Tanner McKee, or you get the picture if Saquon wasn't playing. But this is interesting to me where the momentum is on Washington from a public standpoint. Because ticket count, Kevin, 70% on Washington, 30% on Philadelphia. Line opened up at 4.5. Now it's 6.5. That's a big move. And still with questions on how healthy Jalen Hurts even is. Wow.
You know, either it is an unbelievable amount of Eagles money or the books thought he might not play in the game when they popped that initial number open. I want to make a point here to some people because I was thinking more about the Eagles yesterday. And I think I figured out part of the formula, Donnie, why very few people seem to understand this team. We have 5 active coach-quarterback combinations that have made multiple conference championship games, right? You have Mahomes and Andy Reid, and the consensus is they are both great.
Yes.
You have Burrow and Zach Taylor, Josh Allen and Sean McDermott, and the consensus is both of those quarterbacks, Burrow and Allen, are great. You have Purdy and Shanahan, and the consensus is Kyle is great. Super Bowl issues notwithstanding, everybody thinks Kyle's one of the best coaches in football. And that fifth combination is Sirianni and Hurts. And the consensus appears to be they are both bad. That is how you get to a situation where nobody knows how to discuss a football team. Every one of these other combinations has at least some level of greatness. The Eagles apparently not only lack greatness at either coach or quarterback, they apparently have negatives at those two positions, according to the consensus.
Yeah.
That is how you try and understand that nobody actually understands this football team. Sirianni has never lost a home playoff game. Jalen Hurts has never lost a home playoff game. Jalen Hurts had the best passer rating in football from the bye week until the Steelers game. The third best passer rating. Everybody's obsessed about the Eagles' pass offense. Sirianni has the best winning percentage in football. Active. What are we doing here? It is so insane that we have people thinking that the Eagles' coach-quarterback combination is, again, not only not great, legitimately bad. And that's how you get to situations like this, Donnie.
Yeah. And sometimes, you look at the fan bases, and particularly the Philadelphia Eagles fan base. I remember back in 2017, Eagles got to the playoffs, and the word around town was, they better go Sudfeld, man. This Foles guy, ain't it at this point right now. Only to have one of the best Super Bowl runs ever from a backup quarterback all the way through to the Super Bowl at that point. But it does play out some interesting tendencies where it is going to be interesting to watch this game play out. Now, I try to early in the week. Sometimes I do bet right away. If I say, if this number's going to change, I can't give it up. It's locked in. I'm not worried. Because I do still want to see, I don't think there's any issues this weekend with, let's just say, Hurts operating the Eagles offense. How effective he's going to be on the ground, we'll see. But that's a good offensive line. They'll protect them. They have dominant wide receivers. That's the angle I'm trying to attack, because I like to buy low at scenarios where I say, you know what? How does this game plan change? You get to the playoffs. Passing game wasn't all that there. Much better defense than the Green Bay Packers, which meant A.J. Brown, Devonta Smith didn't have big days. Then you get into the Snow Globe game, where they didn't really throw the football at all. A.J. Brown and Devonta Smith don't have big days there. Now you look at this weekend, and I always like to look and do my due diligence. I was worried about the weather all week last week. Ended up hitting hard in the second quarter, and they pretty much got that forecast right. Thought it would start a little bit earlier, started about maybe 45 minutes later, but that really impacted the game all the way through. But now I look, Kevin, just look at FanDuel right now, not going to every book. A.J. Brown, normally around 79, 80 yards, 60 yards. Devontae Smith, normally in that high 50s range, touching low 60s, 47.5. Dallas Goedert, who seems to be a favorite target, whether it's snowing or not, and he's back healthy, 37.5. So starting from an Eagles perspective for me, Saquon's very hard to touch, because unless you just say, well, he's going to get over his 20 carries, which was 19.5. Now it's 20.5. I didn't check this one's probably 21.5, close to that, maybe even 22 because he gets the ball so much. But my angle for this game, at least from an Eagles side to start, is actually for the wide receivers getting discounts on what I think could possibly take place this weekend.
Yeah, I get it. I'm not sure where I'll land inside that equation. I think the Eagles have a desire to throw the football much earlier in games, Donnie, and maybe they do that against Washington. But Saquon's going to continue to hit his home runs. We know that. If he occasionally does need that blow, those kind of Gainwell, you've mentioned Gainwell faults.
Yeah, 9.5, Kev, which was his number. He got 10 right on the dot. And I'm saying Saquon just got banged up. Again, it's not like, hey, man, I'm betting $100 on a. I usually like to have at least 25, maybe $50 on that to have some fun, just to show the people, hey, I'm not making stuff up and never betting it here, because I've hit a 6-1, 11-1s. They're fun to do it. But I saw that, he just got 11 in a snow game. He's not going to get 2 more carries to average 5 yards a pop when one of those is going to be 3rd and 18. He didn't get another carry the rest of the game. And, of course, he gets a catch for 10 yards, which gives him 20 total in the game.
Yeah. But, feel free to use Gainwell more. Here's the other thing I've done, again, just looking into some more stuff.
Yeah.
The Eagles are on pace to set the single-season rushing record, regular and postseason.
Yes.
Saquon, I'm telling you, man, it is going to come back and eat him alive when he realizes what he skipped out on Green Bay.
No.
He would be, Donnie, well on pace.
You mean the Giants?
No. When Saquon Barkley...
Oh, yeah, okay. I got you now. Yeah, I know what you're saying.
Donnie, he punted on 59 more yards, okay? Donnie, he would be on pace to break the postseason rushing record. It belongs to John Riggins, over 600 yards.
Yeah, he was running
Saquon is
wild,
going.
83.
Saquon will become the 7th ever player to go for 400 plus in a postseason on Sunday. Like, Saquon is already, Donnie, in 2 games, like in the top 15 postseasons of all time. He should have never passed on those 59 yards. But I just, there's always this call for the Eagles to pass. I don't know, if you saw the best rushing team of your life, why would you say, hey, why don't you? It's kind of like the NBA, Donnie, where it's hey, the Celtics keep smoking threes, and people are like, would love to see Derek White take a step in, pull up mid-range. It's why? That would be dumb. That would be bad basketball. Why people are desperate for the Eagles to play bad football, and they're not gonna.
Just don't turn the football over. Again, why did Washington beat Detroit? They played well, but they were +5 in the turnover battle. It's not going to happen this week. Look at last week, Eagles game versus the Rams +2. But let's take a look at the Washington perspective of this game early week. Jaden Daniels, 223.5, which doesn't seem like all that much. Passing touchdowns for him, 1.5. It's +142. Seems kind of low numbers at that point there. Receiving props, Terry McLaurin, 64.5. Zach Ertz, 31.5, which at least is going to be all Zach Ertz up again this weekend. De'Ami Brown, 42.5. Austin Eckler, 25.5. Rushing props, a quick preview. Jaden Daniels, 54.5. Saquon. I don't know if I've ever seen that before in a pro game, Kevin. $125.5 in a playoff game? And you know what? People are like, I'm not taking that under. You got to be out of your mind. We'll talk about that and much more coming up next right here on the SportsGrid Network.
Loser is kind of a mean-spirited slur.
But it doesn't have to stick.
Tell them to listen to SportsGrid and fix it.
No, thank you. Later.
This is the SportsGrid Radio Network.
Progressive presents the Sports Flash. I'm Chuck Sanders.
Former New York Giants quarterback Daniel Jones has signed a deal with the Minnesota Vikings. He became a free agent Monday after clearing waivers following his release in New York. The Vikings are signing Jones to a 1-year deal for the remainder of this season for $375,000. He'll be on the Vikings practice squad. College football, North Carolina announcing earlier this week that Mack Brown will not return next season. The Tar Heels at 6-5. He'll coach the season finale against NC State, but the school will find an interim coach for their bowl game. NFL 3 games on Thanksgiving Day. Detroit will be home at Ford Field taking on the Chicago Bears. Dallas home to face the New York Giants. And then Thanksgiving night, the Green Bay Packers will be hosting the Miami Dolphins.
Bundle auto and home, renters, or condo and save with Progressive. I'm Chuck Sanders, and that's your Sports Flash.
Mornings can start feeling the same. Wake up, brush teeth, go to work. But with breakfast from Wendy's, it's like, wake up, brush teeth, Baconate with a breakfast Baconator. Roll with a sausage breakfast burrito. Buddy it up with a Honey Buddy. Or get seasoned with seasoned potatoes. And then go to work. Sorry. When you're ready for a fresh wake-up call, gotta be Wendy's.
At participating U.S. Wendy's during breakfast hours.
Hey, I got you something. What's this? Just a little Galentine's gift from JTV.
Do you mean jewelry television? I love their jewelry. They have the...
New customers get $25 off their first purchase of $75 or more. Visit jtv.com/romance.
Yeah, their artisan collections? Gorgeous.
Are you going to open your gift?
Oh, yeah. It's the pearl bracelet.
New customers receive $25 off their first purchase of $75 or more. Visit jtv.com/romance.
If SportsGrid was a burrito, we'd be the one with steak and carnitas packed so full every bite made your cheeks poof out like Dizzy Gillespie, so the name stuck and now even your mother calls you Dizzy. This is the SportsGrid Radio Network.
And those hanging numbers, Kevin, on Jalen Hurts rushing prop, 29.5. Any thoughts on that? Worried? Not worried? Fine? No big deal? Over thought the knee just got tweaked a little bit and no big deal?
You know, he did have, and not on just the play he took the sack. Mm-hmm. They called a quarterback rollout multiple times after the knee injury.
They did.
So that would suggest that it, at least in the moment, wasn't a big concern, right? 29.5 is not a ton of yards. It is also, though, not that much lower than last week's.
37.5 to 39.5. Mm-hmm.
That's what I'm saying, right? Now, listen, if he was fully healthy and that game went normal, the number's probably 42.5 or so, right? Probably goes up based on what he did to Washington and what have you. But I'm not running to bet that number. I don't know. Or do you feel good about an over there?
No. I need. It was clear that that knee hampered him on Sunday. And typically when you hurt something on a Sunday, it doesn't feel better like Monday, like ligament style and just knee sprain. So I do assume that he's not going to be saying, you know what, if the pass rush comes, I can really just say 1,000 and I'm gone here. He'll run because that's what you have to do. And you just have to keep the defense honest, even if you're limping around, if that makes sense. You will get some yards on the tush push, but outside of that, I'm not looking to hit that because I don't think that's a smart bet by going like, well, he was injured at this point. So what does that mean where he runs in? Because Jalen, I do give him credit for this. He's very opportunistic when he's like, you know what? I'm not fighting for the extra 2 yards. I'm going to slide after I got 1 yard running sideways because it's not worth me putting my head down and getting a concussion or getting injured. He does that. So I think that might be even more of a prospect where he just might be giving himself up as opposed to, well, how'd he get that 40-plus yard touchdown run? Ran through a tackle. I don't know if he's running through tackles this weekend with that knee. So for me, Jalen Hurts, early in the week, off the table. Until we get one of those, hey, man, it was just a practice. He ain't even wearing a sleeve. Like, everything's fine. Like, ooh, now that's some intel that we need to know. But we won't get that until Wednesday. But I'm excited for that Washington Eagles game, 47.5. Weather conditions don't look like they're going to be all that bad. 40-degree temperatures, like 5% chance of precipitation, which is, I guess, normal. And winds under 10 miles an hour. Clean slate this week, Kevin, as opposed to what you saw last week with the Rams game.
I was wondering if we would get some shorter numbers on Hurts to score, and we're not. We're seeing minus 140.
It's almost like you can't even like correlate the injury. Like if he can just do a tush push, it's like that's fine. Like they don't handicap right for, well, he usually scores from 38 yards out. They handicap going like, the Eagles are good on offense. They'll be in the red zone 4 times. They're going to wind up at the 1. He scores. Like that's how
yeah, for sure. And rightfully so, right? I was laughing, Donnie. They were doing, I don't know if you were betting it at all. I don't know, was it King of the Field, whatever it might have been, for the longest touchdown, the DraftKings thing. It's kind of like a spin on King of the Court.
Yeah. Now, so you have to pick the player or pick the team?
Player. And
okay.
If the player you bet scores the longest touchdown on Saturday, Sunday, right? They've been doing it since wild card round. And I was laughing because Hurts goes out, rips off a 44-yarder, and you go,
yes, that's it.
Man, like you're never supposed to win that bet with him, right?
Yeah.
Like if you bet him as your qualifier, you're like, look, I just like him to score. Who knows? Him getting a 44-yarder, you go, oh my goodness, we could be in the money. And then just Saquon.
See out the door, 70-yard blast. Buffalo Bills, Kansas City Chiefs, awesome game. It's one of those, Kevin, where I always like to talk about like my fandom. And I will never forget the day I was living in, actually not too far away from where I live now, technically, still Burlington County. Had my own condo, young in my age, didn't have season tickets yet, didn't get them to the following year. 2002 NFC Championship game, which I always tell the story, almost got fired from my job because I was such an Eagles fan and we never had success. And all of a sudden it's lining up where they are going to play a game in the last game at Veterans Stadium and I need to be there. And I thought I paid a lot of money. It was $275 to sit up in the 700 level, like final 10 rows of the stadium, which was absolutely a bargain compared to what some of the prices go today or the experience that I had. Got down to the stadium for that 3:30 game. I think it was actually 3 o'clock, 3 and 6:30 was the AFC Championship games even back then. Freezing cold day. Tampa Bay never beats the Philadelphia Eagles. We've been hammering them for years. Perfect scenario. It's our day. One of the best starts to the game I ever saw in my life. Brian Mitchell returns a kickoff like 75 yards. 2 plays later, Deuce Staley walks in the end zone. We're going to San Diego. It's a foregone conclusion. We're going to hammer the Raiders. It's a wrap at this point. Now, we didn't know the Raiders were playing that yet because the Eagles were the first game. But I remember leaving that stadium that night, Kev, and getting home and laying on my couch. And again, lived alone at that point. Put on this TV, and I saw the night game, which I think was the Raiders and I want to say the Tennessee Titans. I could be wrong, but I thought that's the matchup. I didn't care about that game. I laid on the couch like a zombie. I'll just turn on like Jeopardy or a Jeopardy rerun because I couldn't hear anything about the Super Bowl. And that year, Kevin, which the Super Bowl was played. It wasn't. No, what was it? Maybe only. I want to say 1 week. Why am I thinking that the Super Bowl was played a week later or whatever it was? Because Tampa Bay had packed their bags to go to the Super Bowl without that was their MO. Like, don't even bring a return clothes. We're going to rate. Make sure you have extra because we're going right to like San Diego at that point. But that Super Bowl, I couldn't watch it. It was the worst time I've ever have been a fan of anything in my life, and anywhere I could be than watching that Super Bowl and watch Tampa Bay roll the Raiders. It was so tough, man. It was just so tough.
Yeah, I think to that, had the Eagles lost to the Rams, I wouldn't have watched a second of Bills Ravens. I wouldn't have wanted to watch the NFC Championship game. I don't know if I even would have been able to get up for the AFC title game.
You would have had good content this week? How would you have handled your content? Tough scene.
No, I wouldn't have had. I really wouldn't have. And I'll say, with the way this season has played out, if the Eagles do play Kansas City in the Super Bowl and then proceed to lose that football game, I might just have to talk with management and be like, listen, guys, I think I've always been a college guy. I'm more of a basketball guy.
It's time to separate my talents here.
It's one of those things you just look ahead to for a number of reasons would be incredibly painful. Not that I would expect that to be the result, but we'll see.
Yeah, we got to squeeze in the Buffalo Bills because they're taking on the Chiefs. It's wild times. The Chiefs win everything. They won 15 games this year. They ain't even laying a field goal at home in their own environment, and they're 100% healthy. Wild times in the NFL. It's going to be fun to watch it play out. Let's get a quick preview of Bills Chiefs on a Tuesday.
It's a choice. Roll the dice or listen to us. Luck is finding a good parking spot. Strategy is getting the winning edge. This is the SportsGrid Radio Network. The new SportsGrid app is now available on iOS and the App Store. Experience the ultimate sports betting companion that provides personalized content from your favorite hosts. In-depth matchup previews, game and prop picks, live odds, stats, scores, and more. All in one place. And of course, on the SportsGrid app, you can tune into our live television and radio coverage anytime, on the go, wherever you are. Download the SportsGrid app on the iOS App Store now. It's smarter to be on SportsGrid. Pharrell, Coast to Coast.
I thought both of those roughing calls were absolute bullshit. This guy, you blow a kiss toward him and you get a flag. These other guys, Daniels gets annihilated, Goff gets annihilated, Allen gets annihilated, Lamar Jackson gets annihilated. No flags in those games. This guy gets flags every time you touch him, and I'm sick and effing tired of it.
It's Pharrell, Coast to Coast with Scott Farrell. Weekdays, 3 p.m. Eastern, noon Pacific, on the home of the winning edge, the SportsGrid Radio Network. SportsGrid Radio presents Gridiron Greats.
Quarterback Fran Tarkenton threw for a then-record 342 touchdowns while playing for the Vikings and Giants in the 1960s and 70s. Tarkenton led Minnesota to 3 Super Bowls in 4 years, but lost all 3 matchups.
We knocked on the door every year, but not being able to push across the line. I feel that I let myself down, my teammates down, people in Minnesota down, that I couldn't deliver.
For SportsGrid Radio, I'm Mike DeMurgis.
The SportsGrid Radio Network presents This Date in Sports History.
2007, the AFC Championship known as Manning's Revenge. The Colts beat the Patriots 38-34 as Indy overcame a 21-3 Pats lead.
Another running play. A dive walks in for the touchdown.
Indy scored 32 second-half points to finally knock out New England 38-34 en route to Peyton Manning's first Super Bowl. For SportsGrid Radio, I'm Mike DeMurgis.
You're listening to the voice of authority. Sports gaming strategies and information on daily sporting events. In other words, information you can take to the bank. We are your trusted source for gaming, odds, and more. This is the SportsGrid Radio Network.
Josh Allen on the road in Kansas City doesn't usually work out in his favor in the playoffs here. -1.5. I got to tell you, man, I'm still shocked by that line. I just am. Am I saying it's going to be 3.5 or 4? No. But 1.5 to the Chiefs, who don't ever lose.
But Donnie, they were going to be a dog against Baltimore at home. Why are you surprised?
I still would have been surprised by that too.
But that's what it would have been.
I don't care. I would have changed it up. Would have put some beep 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 beep.
But at 2.5, would you be surprised? Like, I don't really understand. Like
I think 3 should have been where it was at. I really do. I think 3 should have been where it was at.
Would you lay 3? Who's laying 3?
Probably, but as dumb as this sounds, like, no, I wouldn't be laying the 3, but I really like 1.5. Like, no, hold on. You think that game's going to be that close? Because I always like to play devil's advocate that way.
Yeah, I think that's valid.
When I see the 1.5, there's 2 things that are supposed to go through your mind. Number 1 would be, oh my God, the Buffalo Bills, ultimate respect. Everybody's going to take the Kansas City Chiefs. That's not even what's happening right now. And I don't know if it's just, we already know that we hate Kansas City nationally, Kevin. Where 26% of the bets are coming in at Kansas City at -1.5 at home. Like, we're not even getting that trendy dog where it's like 78% on the Chiefs because it's -1.5. Like, you're getting we're going to open at 1.5. It's not going to move, and everybody is betting the Bills. That's what I look at more of a handicapper and say, like, you look at the line without the percentages and go, oh my God, Buffalo's getting respect. But then you look and go, everybody wants Buffalo. Everybody is betting Buffalo early, and that line's not going anywhere to flip from like you saw in the Buffalo game versus the Baltimore Ravens. -1.5. Oh, wait, whoa. Wrong way. -1.5 the other way. We're not getting that.
Yeah, but I think that's kind of my point, Donnie. Is like, people are willing to bet Buffalo as long as they see like a plus price. At +3, that would be a ridiculous number. Nobody would lay 3 with Kansas City. So again, if you think it should be 2.5, right? Like as close to a field goal without being a field goal, I could understand that. I'm a little surprised at that early ticking count on Buffalo. I wonder what that looks like come Sunday. Yeah. You know, if that starts to, meet in the middle a little more. But
it has to, because the only thing, like, it has to, and it's funny, it's like, well, there has to be sharp money early in the week. Sharp money usually pushes lines, right? So effectively, the sharp money is actually on Kansas City holding that number at 1.5.
Well, no, but don't you think? Like. But we saw 2s, right? So maybe at 2, like 2 might be the buy spot, right?
Like, FanDuel hasn't moved off 1.5 all week, but I am seeing the Westgate in Vegas opened up at -1.5, went to -1, back to -1.5, and now -2s, which that was as of yesterday. They moved to a 2, but everybody else. Let me see what DraftKings have. DraftKings ever had a 2? DraftKings had a 2.5 for a blink, a screen flash before it went back to 1.5.
So I think you're seeing a buy spot there, right?
Yeah.
Like, and I know, listen.
Great teaser spot for the Bills. Now, do you have a teaser player, Kevin? Look at that this weekend.
Yeah.
Eagles pick them 7.5, 8 for the Bills. Woo!
Is that going to be the main teaser, you think? Birds at flat, Bills up?
No, I actually think Washington would get I think the Bills would get it, and Washington would get the 12.5.
Yeah.
Based on betting percentages early in the week. That's what the majority of the teasers would go.
Makes sense. Washington's not been a team that's been blown out a lot this season. So that is an understandable premise. I will say on the drive home last night from the title game, I just started to think a little bit more about the playoffs and wagers and things like that. I really want and maybe they have it on 365, Donnie, combined passing yards for Mahomes and Allen. It's not out yet on DK.
Yeah, let's see.
But
usually
that's going to be a big target for me.
I had that. I don't know if I can go back to that after the burn I took last week. So,
with the under? Well, I want the over. So.
Yeah, nothing's out yet on that yet. Yeah, nothing's out on that.
That's going to be a good look. That's going to be a look for me. It might be south of 500, which, that's going to be.
It would be crazy. Down to 500 is actually kind of wild in a game that's going to be priced around 52 with those two. That is crazy.
Correct. So I think it's a really good buy low spot. I also will say this, though, and I don't know, maybe people think it's cowardly, but I don't care. Wouldn't you much rather bet the Bills over 23.5 than plus 1.5 or on the money line?
Yeah, pretty much. It was. I was asked the same question yesterday. It was almost 50-50. It's like, well, I do like Notre Dame over their numbers. Like, well, if they score like 14, they ain't covering the game against Ohio State. It's like, it's a good point because there is really a correlation at that point. But there is, you say, like, there's no way the Bills can score 18 and win. You wouldn't think, right? So it's like, all right, well, they can lose by scoring 25, but they can't go the opposite direction and win by getting 18. So a lot to live up to. Good weekend of football ahead. Close the books on college football. College basketball starts to open up. The NBA maybe getting back into our lives, even though the Celtics smashed the Golden State Warriors by 40 yesterday. It is what it is. JP Bond and Wheels of Steel, Donnie Red saying Kevin Wall. See you tomorrow.
can get SportsGrid on the radio, TV, the internet. We've got your number, Sporto. That's sure.
Quarter, but the 10 more in the third and 3 more in the fourth. It's Ohio State's first national title since 2014. The Fighting Irish tried to rally. They were down 31-7, but scored a pair of touchdowns and 2 two-point conversions to make it a one-score game late in the fourth. It's the first time the Big Ten has taken back-to-back titles since 1942. Last year's champ was Michigan. Buckeyes quarterback Will Howard, 17 of 21 passing, 231 yards, 2 touchdowns. Buckeyes running back Quinshon Judkins ran the ball 11 times for 100 yards and 2 touchdowns. Riley Leonard, 22 of 31 passing, 2 touchdowns, 255 yards in the loss for Notre Dame. Bundle auto and home, renters, or condo and save with Progressive. I'm Chuck Sanders, and that's your Sports Flash.
Welcome to Staples.
I am so pumped. My business is going to kill it this year.
Awesome. How can I help?
First, a new computer.
With Staples Home and Office Hot Deals, you save big on tech.
And new posters.
Save on custom printing, too.
And,
a new chair?
A chair? Who has time to sit?
Maybe all your new clients?
Now you're talking.
With Staples Home and Office Hot Deals, you'll find huge savings on custom prints, storage, chairs, and tech. And now save up to $175 off your print order. Exclusions apply. Visit staples.com/print for details. Ends 2/1.
Progressive knows we all crave validation.
Girl, you are not 37.
I would have guessed 27.
You guys are too sweet.
Sure, dewy skin. Terrific.
Is something wrong, Ned?
Why would you ask? Just because today marks my 10th anniversary without a car accident or even a speeding ticket? But somehow, tonight's all about your skincare.
Wow. With Snapshot from Progressive, you can get a personalized rate based on how you drive. And that's all the validation you need. Progressive Casualty Insurance Company and affiliates. Snapshot not available in California or from all agents. Surcharge possible for unsafe driving.
No way football is playing in the fall and winter because the hits don't hurt as much when you're numb. Get the lowdown on all the sports action coming up right here. It's smarter to be on SportsGrid. This is the SportsGrid Radio Network.
It is football full circle on this Tuesday afternoon. Scott Wetzel, George Kurtz for the next 60 minutes as we check out the NFL scene. A little calm before the storm, if you will, on a Tuesday, Wednesday, maybe Thursday, George. You kind of really get the Jones flowing there. 2 games, AFC, NFC Championship game Sunday. Little movement with the point spreads as we have the Philadelphia Eagles now 6.5-point favorites. I'm surprised. I thought that would go the other way, but maybe there's some word that's going to leak out of Philadelphia that Jalen Hurts really is 100% healthy. Who knows what's going on with A.J. Brown? 3 receptions for 24 yards over the last 2 games. Oh, by the way, playoff games, but we'll break it all down over the next 60. What's going on, George? How are you this afternoon?
I'm doing well, Scotty. Doing well. I think you're going to have a tough time convincing me that Jalen Hurts is 100% healthy. I think he's going to play, of course, and going to start, but I'm not going to buy the healthy part. Plus, he really doesn't play all that well anyway. All right, and A.J. Brown's like a powder cake waiting to go off. Maybe he'll be reading War and Peace on the sideline on Sunday here. That being said, Scott, they are the better team, right? They are the better team here. But I mean, Scott, can the Commanders really? I mean, as a Cowboy fan, this is just rubbing it in, baby. I mean, can the Commanders really go to the Super Bowl? Really? I think they at least cover.
Yeah. I forget Cowboys. How about the Giant fan, George? And I mentioned this on Twitter and other shows. I mean, obviously you could have had Saquon Barkley if you just re-signed him this past offseason. They didn't. And if you go back to 2 seasons ago, last year, they win 4 of their last 7. They go 4-3 down the stretch after starting the season 2-8. One of the wins coming against Washington. Tommy Cutlets, great story. But in the end, what did it accomplish? Absolutely nothing, except you were no longer in a position to be drafted second, in which Washington was. They get Jaden Daniels, and it's kind of history repeats itself this year with the Giants as well, which is really another story. But, as the Giant fan sits back and says, we could have had Jaden Daniels if we just do the right thing and lose games, and obviously we could have had, Saquon if we just re-signed him. So tough for a Giant fan and a Dallas Cowboy fan watching this year's NFC Championship game.
Yeah, it's certainly not going to be, great there. Eagles, yeah, great, yeah, it's great, yeah. It's aggravating here. I mean, listen, you said the Giants are winning that game against Indianapolis again. Maybe they close themselves a chance at Ward or Shedeur Sanders. So, we'll see how that works out in the NFL draft in a couple of months. But, yeah. And by the way, remember the AFC North, the NFC North, the great NFC North, right? What they go 0-3 in the playoffs and lost by almost combined, was it 95-40 or something silly like that? They got destroyed. So, hey, is what it is. Most of us will be probably paying more attention to the AFC game, right? We all want to see Kansas City and Buffalo, a little rematch there. But I think both games could be entertaining this weekend.
Yeah, I hope Hurts is okay. Name being Hurts. Just because they didn't utilize him in the fourth quarter anywhere close to what they know. They didn't even do the push-tush when they had it down 2nd and goal to 1 yard line. That's how concerned they were with him. So that's why I'm a little surprised the line went up to 6.5 again, unless word is going to start to leak that he's banged up obviously, but it's not as bad as it looked last week because. I'm watching the game last week, and I'm thinking this dude's not going to be able to play, next week at all. But apparently that's not going to be the case. Still surprised it's up to 6.5, almost a touchdown.
I mean, you go into 1-53, it's not even close. The Eagles are the better team, right? I mean, the Commanders have like 3 good players, it seems like, right? Daniels, you got McLaurin, and that might be it. Eagles dominate every place else. But that being said, the Washington seems to be one of those teams of destiny, right? They're playing well. They did beat Philadelphia last time they played. Granted, that was the game that Hurts got the concussion. All right, he only played, 10 snaps before he left there. So we'll see how that works out here. Listen, it's an NFC East game, it's a divisional game. It should be fun. They know each other very well here. I think Philadelphia does win the game, but I do also believe that Washington will cover. So I'm not going to go. I'm just not going to give Philadelphia a free pass here. I think Hurts. I think he plays, but you'll never convince me he's 100%. 80? I'm not even sure he's over the concussion, by the way. Oh, no, that's still banging around his head as well. Remember, he missed 3 weeks for that. So he was out a long time here. Maybe he's just rusty. Maybe that's part of it as well. But he looks pretty good running the ball. But will that be calmed down now? Because as you said it, they didn't even do a tush push with him after he hurt his legs there. Like he didn't have enough strength there to push off of his legs. So will they do it Sunday? Will they be afraid to do it? So we'll see. Should be very interesting to see at what percentage Hurts actually is able to play.
Is that the reason we're going to give 3 receptions for 24 yards for A.J. Brown? I mean, and he's been pretty quiet about it, which is maybe the most amazing thing out of it all. And then we're not just talking any 2 games. We're talking playoff games, close games in which you would think, okay, he would be the man. 3 receptions, 1 2 weeks ago and 2 this past Sunday for 24 stinking yards. Like he's not – and they did throw to him 7 times this past week with only the 2 receptions. So at least that was a little bit more than what it was 2 weeks ago. But what's got into A.J. Brown?
Well, he did drop the one that would have been a touchdown, right? It was about a 39-yard touchdown, or at least he would have gone out at the 1 or 2 yard line. But I think the catch is clean. He gets in the end zone there. He did drop that. I was going to say credit to him for not complaining, but you know what? You're in a divisional game. You won. All right? You shouldn't be complaining. Hurts has been off. All right? Whether it's the injury to the legs, whether it's the concussion, whether it's just the fact that he's rusty or whatever it might be, he has been off. He hasn't been playing all that well. I think he'll play better Sunday. The Commanders don't have a great secondary at all. They can be beat there. Maybe you can make an argument they can be beat there more than in the run game. Remember that second, as soon as Hurts went out in that last game, I want to say week 16, as soon as he went out in that game, the Commanders played run. Barkley was stopped cold in the second half. He got nothing. So I wonder if that's going to be the game plan again. Stop Barkley, force Hurts to beat us, which he could, if he's hot, he can do. This is what A.J. Brown, Devonta Smith, Dallas Goedert, he can certainly do that. But I wonder if that's going to be the game plan here. I'm not going to say take away Barkley, not sure you can do that, but keep him in check. And let's see before we change our game plan, let's make sure that Hurts can get the ball down the field and can get it downfield accurately.
Yeah. I take it. Can Washington actually? Oh, by the way, if you're A.J. Brown, how many publishers do you think he got phone calls from this past week and will probably get again this week saying, you know what? Start reading my book. Start reading this book. I'll give you $1,000, $10,000, $100,000, $1 million. Literally, he probably got offered. In all seriousness, right? I mean, he took a book that was ranked 530,000th. Believe it, no exaggeration, to number 1 by reading it on the sidelines and then showing him a couple of times. So I don't doubt for a second he was offered 7 figures. Read War and Peace, like he said, joking. Leave Dr. Spock, whatever. He could have made a ton of money. I give him credit for not, I suppose. But I'm sure he'll be getting offered.
Read Dr. Seuss.
Dr. Seuss, Dr. Spock. Who cares?
If he's reading something like that, green eggs and ham, my God, I think and that gets caught on film. That would be hilarious, actually. But you can't make I was reading something to make myself better. Dr. Seuss ain't making yourself better. Well, I guess it is in some ways here, but no, that'd be hilarious. I would laugh, but no. But you're right. He probably was offered some kind of money there to do this, and make sure you get caught on camera too. He got away with it once. Not so sure you want to pull that again here. So it is what it is. But I do wonder, if things aren't going the Eagles' way, and AJ Brown's not getting the ball, the fire's lit. And he could, we've seen this before on the sidelines with receivers and quarterbacks exploding at each other. So we'll see. Hell, we saw it in the game, Saturday afternoon, where the one player on special teams pushed the special teams coach for the Houston Texans, right? Players do get angry, coaches get angry. Stuff happens here. So we'll see. That being said, I don't think it'll happen here. I think Hurts will make a concerted effort to get A.J. Brown the ball. Then again, Scott, I thought that this past weekend as well.
Yeah, that's what I don't get. And I'll say this. I'll say the same thing I said about Notre Dame. I said somewhere along the line, Riley Leonard, Notre Dame quarterback, is going to have to throw the football in order to win a championship. And that was kind of proven out last night. Whereas I say the same thing about A.J. Brown in Philadelphia. Somewhere along the line, he's got to turn back into being A.J. Brown. Otherwise, they're going to lose. Whether it's the NFC Championship game, whether it's the Super Bowl. But they can't win a Super Bowl with him getting 1 or 2 receptions a game. I just refuse to believe it. More football talk, football full circle here on the Grid. Coming up.
4 out of 5 scientists agree it's smarter to be on SportsGrid. And we're pretty sure that one scientist is still a virgin. He just gives that 5. This is the SportsGrid Radio Network.
Residents across the country are bracing for dangerously low temperatures while the East Coast contends with a thick blanket of snow and the South prepares for a rare winter storm expected to disrupt travel into Wednesday. With the SportsGrid News Flash, I'm Trey Westerberg. This update brought to you by Progressive. Winter storm warnings stretch from Texas to Florida on Monday with heavy snow, sleet, and freezing rain expected in the region into Wednesday. Heavy lake effect snow is expected in western New York State Monday through Wednesday morning with 1 to 2 feet possible in some areas. Donald J. Trump was sworn in as the 47th President of the United States on Monday. Trump takes charge as Republicans claim unified control of Washington. Speaking in the Capitol Rotunda Monday, Trump promised sweeping change to, quote, completely and totally reverse the Biden era and pledged to pursue policy that expands U.S. territory, including putting U.S. astronauts on Mars. I'm Trey Westerberg with the SportsGrid News Flash.
Progressive presents Renter's MVP's Most Valuable Possessions. Today's MVP, Tom Kelly's carbon fiber mountain bike. Because more than riding his carbon fiber mountain bike, Tom loves telling people about his carbon fiber mountain bike. Friends, family, even a local barista knows about his carbon fiber mountain bike. And that's why Tom's carbon fiber mountain bike, if you haven't heard about it, is today's MVP. Keep your most valuable possessions protected by bundling your renters and auto insurance with Progressive. Progressive Casualty Insurance Company affiliates and other insurers not available in all states.
That spice is 10 out of 10. Would recommend. Hi, my name is Khadijah, and a little thing I love about the Chick-fil-A Grilled Spicy Deluxe Sandwich is that spicy kick of the chicken. It's just the right amount of heat, and it gets me excited. And then, pro tip, add that cilantro lime sauce. It cools it down. If the sandwich is at 100, the cilantro lime takes it to 200. It makes me want to, tell all my friends and family.
Order a Chick-fil-A Grilled Spicy Deluxe Sandwich and a Diet Dr. Pepper on the Chick-fil-A app for a limited time. Real guests paid for their testimonial.
There's something you should know and always remember. SportsGrid does not increase luck. We're your unfair advantage for the latest sports gaming information. If you're looking for luck, go find a horseshoe. This is the SportsGrid Radio Network.
Welcome back. It is Football Full Circle here on the Grid on a Tuesday afternoon. Scott Wetzel, George Kurtz, and again for Ben Stevens as we talk a little NFL, a little line movement as Philadelphia in the NFC Championship game. That one's up first, up to 6.5, and then Kansas City still 1.5 against the Buffalo Bills. It's not that the NFL, maybe I shouldn't say this, but not that the NFL has a say in the matter. Maybe they actually do. Who knows if you're a Kansas City, or if you're not a Kansas City Chief fan, right? But NFL, if they had their druthers, what do you think? To me, it would be Kansas City, and I think they're kind of done with Philadelphia. I think they're embracing the Jaden Daniels, even though I think that would lead to a blowout, and the other one wouldn't. But I think if they had their choice, George, Kansas City versus Washington might be on the NFL's number one hit list plate.
Well, I think it's definitely Kansas City, right? You want Mahomes and the Andy Reid and overstart Travis Kelce, Taylor Swift. That alone, because you want Kansas City.
Right.
I mean, I think they probably would rather Philadelphia, but I don't think they care. I think Philadelphia, Washington's about even. Jaden Daniels is only going to go you so far. Philadelphia has more top players, so I think there's more selling points there. Probably this would be a definite if Jason Kelce was still playing. But without it, it does make it closer. I don't think the NFC they care. Either one they can sell there, or they can sell as much as they can. Like the Kansas City's the big selling point, right? That's where Taylor Swift comes in, and you're gonna want Kansas City with Mahomes and all that, and all the commercials that him and Reed do. Which granted, I love the painting of the end zone one, the chefs instead of the cheese. I think it's hilarious. Yeah. If I was that guy, I'd be eating a lot of Snickers and probably drinking a few more things as well. But I don't think they care that much about the NFC.
Yeah. It's funny. Buffalo is the better story, right? I mean, whether it's the Jim Kelly days or now Josh Allen days, the failure time and time again and the way they've lost over the years. Not much was expected from them, at least not like this anyway. So I think they're actually the better story. But they wouldn't bring in nearly as many eyeballs as Kansas City. You said it with the Taylor Swift stuff. Like someone over in Europe doesn't give a rat's behind about the Buffalo Bills losing all the time. Here in the States, we kind of sympathize a little bit and been living that story. So globally and worldwide, it would be Kansas City just because of all the name faces on Kansas City versus Buffalo. But Buffalo's the story. On the other side of it, Kansas City's Washington is clearly the story, right? I mean, Jaden Daniels, a rookie quarterback, trying to do something no quarterback has ever done as a rookie. Take his team to the Super Bowl, Cinderella wins, slaying the monster in Detroit. So they're the story, but more people, I think, as you said, no Philadelphia, no A.J. Brown, no Hurts. They've been there before. So it's kind of a dynamic of, which one would bring more people to the table. I mean, ultimately, people are going to watch. So, we're talking like, 100 million versus 105 million. I don't think, no one's going to say, I do think the worst matchup would be Buffalo versus Philadelphia. Maybe just personally, because I don't root for the Bills because I'm a Dolphins fan. Philadelphia, I'm a pseudo-Giant fan. They got Barkley, so I can't root for them. Whereas I would definitely be rooting for Washington, and I definitely would be rooting for Kansas City because I got a bet on Kansas City. So, my worst case scenario is Buffalo versus Philadelphia.
Well, I don't think it's a worst case scenario. I'm not rooting for anybody. All right, I don't think I have anything currently on these games. I will, obviously. Well, right now, all I'm rooting for is a good game, be entertained, right? I don't want any blowouts here. But by Sunday, I won't care about that either. All I'll care about is my bets. All right, that's what I'll be rooting for here. Rooting for where my money is. Go figure. This is sort of a repeat of the 91 season. All right, that was the last time Washington actually made it to the championship game where they beat Detroit in the championship game. I'm positive about that. This year they beat Detroit in a divisional game. And they went on to beat the Buffalo Bills in the 91 Super Bowl. That was Buffalo's second of 4 straight losses there. So we might get a little repeat of the 91 season here, which wouldn't shock me. Although I think if that did happen, I think Buffalo would actually beat Washington and finally get their Super Bowl win. Listen, I picked Baltimore and Philadelphia before the playoffs, so I'm going to stick with Philadelphia, although I'm not as sure about that as I once was. Obviously, Baltimore's no longer here, but I also said whoever won the Baltimore-Buffalo game, I thought was going to win. I thought they'd beat Kansas City. Hell, Scotty, the only reason Kansas City's here right now is the refs helped them out a whole bunch on Saturday. That game was called, I don't want to say fairly, but evenly. All right, I'm not so sure Kansas City's even – I don't even think we're talking about Kansas City right now if that's called a little better officiating.
Yeah, but you know what the problem with that thinking, George, is? We've been saying that basically every single week. So why all of a sudden, if it's just a one-time hit, one-hit wonder, we'll say, right? The old music industry. Then it's like, okay, you know what? They should have lost last week, and the officials are going to call a real game next week, and they're going to lose. But no, that's not the case. We've been saying this every single week with this Kansas City team. Literally, I mean, almost anyway, how they get the benefit of the doubts. So if that's the case, I don't expect things to change next week. They're at home. They want Kansas City to be in there. We just both acknowledge that. Why all of a sudden are the officials going to ignore late hits or close calls that would go Kansas City's way? I just think if we got it this past week, we're going to get it again next week. So that's why I like Kansas City. I'm really amazed at how many people think Kansas City's going to lose. Kansas City at home with the officials in their back pocket like they are, and they're going to lose to Buffalo, a team they lost to, and not only lost to, but really was an ugly loss. They weren't even competitive. So, boy, I got to see that to believe it. I know. I watched that game against Houston. I get it. You say, man, they were so lucky. They didn't look good at all. 1 or 2 drives. Otherwise, that was it. But, man, they just seem to find ways to win. And until they actually lose, I'm not jumping off that bandwagon. Kansas City basically pick them at home in a playoff game. I will take any day of the week.
Yeah, I'm going to take Buffalo. I said, I can't argue with any of your points because I have my doubts about the officials, how fair it'll be as well. I'm sure Mahomes will get his calls, and they got to do something about these rules. I know we're going up against the break here. I am not a fan of reviewing penalties. I am not, but I think at this point we don't have a choice, especially for the 15-yarders, the face masks that they keep missing over and over again, and these late hits. I think they do have to be reviewed.
Yeah, I wonder what is the thinking of not originally wanting to review a penalty. I mean,
I'll let you know on the other side.
Yeah. Okay. We'll quick break, but I don't know. What's the big deal? We'll talk about it. George Kurtz, yours truly, Scott Wetzel, and Football Full Circle on a Tuesday on the Grid.
There's smart.
And there's not smart.
Not smart is hope as a strategy. It's smarter to be on SportsGrid.
Keep it here.
And win. This is the SportsGrid Radio Network. The SportsGrid Radio Network presents This Date in Sports History.
2007, the AFC Championship known as Manning's Revenge. The Colts beat the Patriots 38-34 as Indy overcame a 21-3 Pats lead.
Another running play. A dive walks in for the touchdown.
Indy scored 32 second-half points to finally knock out New England 38-34 en route to Peyton Manning's first Super Bowl.
For SportsGrid Radio, I'm Mike DeMurgis.
The Technology Minute with George Capalbo.
South Korean scientists have developed swarms of tiny robots working together like ants to perform Herculean feats, picking up and carrying objects many times their size, climbing together and hurling themselves over obstacles while moving objects over 2,000 times their weight. Is this the dreaded nanobot singularity? Each microbot is actually just 600 micrometers tall and meant to clean human arteries and carry targeted drugs, saving lives. So ignore the hype. It's all a question of scale. Follow me at Chicapalvo on X and stay tuned to the Technology Minute for more cool stuff like this.
Pharrell, Coast to Coast.
It was a great game. It was stressful. And I thought the Bills didn't play well in the second half. For my money, I thought the Ravens came back and then they scored and then Andrews dropped the ball and that was it. And he had the fumble earlier. At some level, you just have to blame him. He cost him the game.
It's Pharrell Coast to Coast with Scott Farrell. Weekdays, 3 p.m. Eastern, noon Pacific. On the home of the winning edge, the SportsGrid Radio Network. Wherever you go,
there you are.
Download the SportsGrid mobile app and we'll be right there with you.
So now you can get the winning edge anywhere.
Even while the wife's talking to you.
If you got an earbud.
This is the SportsGrid Radio Network.
Welcome back. It is Football Full Circle here on the Grid. Scott and George Kurtz sitting for Ben Stevens today discussing the NFC AFC Championship game. Little line movement with the Philadelphia Eagles now 6.5-point favorites, opening up, or at least, for the most part, 5.5, but now it's up to 6.5, both over-unders at 47.5, which I find interesting. And then Kansas City, a 1.5-point favorite over Buffalo in the AFC Championship game. So we're discussing replays in Kansas City and the benefit of doubt that they get, with Patrick Mahomes. And, we brought up the discussion, George, about going to instant replay on penalties. And, you had an answer. But I will, before you give your answer, let me just remind you, baseball, we have instant replay on judgment calls, whether the guy is safe at second base, at home plate. Basketball, we have the now we go to replay for challenging penalties that are called in basketball. So if that's the case in baseball and basketball, why can't we challenge a penalty in the NFL?
See, the reason it's baseball's a little different. Baseball's cut and dry, right? Black and white. You're safe, you're out. That sort of thing. And we get to talk about the strike zone there. That's more of a subjective thing here, which is what we're getting at with football. Now, once again, I refereed, and Scott, you do basketball, I do. So it's almost the same thing here. You do basketball, I've done hockey for 25 years. You can't tell me there are nights, Scott, or your personal preference where I'm not calling this. I'm not calling holdings tonight. Or you got to rip someone down here. There are nights like that. We do that. I know these two teams. I'm going to let them play. That sort of thing. Now you're reviewing. You're taking that away. All right, because now you sort of have to call it more legit, right? Almost by rule book. So that's why reviewing pass interference never worked. Everything's pass interference. All right, you can every play. There's not. I don't think there's a play in football that's not pass interference. Technically, there's not a play in football that's not a hold somewhere. It's what degree are you going to call? So if you're reviewing it, you're taking away what that ref calls. There's no doubt when I was calling games. I'm not going to call high sticking penalties tonight. I'm not going to call, extra hits tonight. I'm going to let them play, that sort of thing. Now, it's a little different face mask because face mask is black and white. Either you grabbed it, you tugged, or you didn't. So I think you can review those. Late hits out of bounds is that gray area again. Maybe you're allowing an extra half second. Maybe you're not. But once again, they definitely blew the one on Lamar Jackson. That was a massive late. It was 3 yards out of bounds. No excuse for that. So I do think there's a way to do. I don't think every penalty should be reviewed. I don't think holding should be reviewed. Don't think you review pass interference here. You may be able to review where it's not. Some of these things where the phantom holding call. I forget who it was on. Was it the guy? The defender fell. Wasn't even hold. Maybe you can review that. Maybe you can review where there's no pass interference. That sort of thing here. But you can definitely review face masks. Right. That is a cut and dry one. So that I think at the very least they need to be able to review that.
And, the owner, not really the owners, but the coaches have no one to blame but themselves. When they tried to institute that pass interference thing, we had a couple of challenges for pass interference. It was all designed, with the Saints-Vikings playoff game in mind. We don't want to have a team lose that they shouldn't because there was a bad call, right? So they said, okay, we're going to now allow you to review pass interference penalties. I forget what it was. I think it was 2 a game. And instead of just, having one in your back pocket, just in case something crazy happens at night, we were getting head coaches, George, that were challenging 7-yard pass plays in the second quarter. And it's like, as soon as I saw that, it's like, you know what? You're going to kill the golden goose. You dopes are going to dry out the game and delay the game for silly 5-yard, 6-yard pass plays when it's designed to help you out in the end. And it's kind of the same thing here. I agree with you that if you opened it up to challenge, you would be challenging every single play. And even if there was a limit on how many challenges, if you give each coach 2 challenges for penalties and then 2 for everything else, the game would take forever. So it's unfortunate. One thing I did see, I'm pretty sure it was Walt Anderson, a longtime official. He was on his show, and they were asking him about the Mahomes stuff, right? And the one thing that stood out, George, is that he said every penalty you're supposed to know 100% it's a penalty. And if it's not, then you don't call the penalty. Except one, he said, and that's penalties on the quarterback. If you're not sure, his words, if you're not sure if it's a penalty or not, they're instructed to call it a penalty if it's a late hit on a quarterback. So it's just like,
that's how it's written in the rule book. It's not his words. It's written that way in the rule book. It's ridiculous. They've gone way too far protecting the quarterbacks. Way too far. They've hurt the game.
Yeah, they really have. I mean, it's amazing. So benefit of the doubt, on the side of the quarterback. It's crazy. All right, football full circle. Halfway through, we'll continue to break down the games, go over some of the coaching moves that have and have not been made, interestingly enough. That is next here on the Grid.
The Winning Edge.
You've got it.
But not everybody has it, because not everybody listens to us.
But we're working on that.
This is the SportsGrid Radio Network.
Progressive presents the Sports Flash. I'm Chuck Sanders.
The road to Super Bowl 59 in New Orleans is now set with the conference title games on Sunday. The AFC, it'll be Patrick Mahomes and the Kansas City Chiefs against Josh Allen and the Buffalo Bills. Fourth meeting between these two quarterbacks in the postseason. In the NFC, it's a divisional matchup as the Washington Commanders, led by rookie quarterback Jayden Daniels, facing the Philadelphia Eagles, led by running back Saquon Barkley, who had over 2,000 yards rushing this season. College football national title game tonight. It's Ohio State against Notre Dame, the conclusion of the first year of the 12-team playoff. In golf, Sepp Straka won the American Express at La Quinta, California on the PGA Tour Sunday, firing a final round 70 to finish at 25 under par, good for a two-shot win over Justin Thomas.
Bundle auto and home, renters or condo, and save with Progressive. I'm Chuck Sanders, and that's your Sports Flash.
This sandwich is not just spicy, it's flavorful.
Hi, this is Matayo.
And this is Elsa.
And a little thing I love about the Chick-fil-A Grilled Spicy Deluxe Sandwich is that spicy kick.
Because the spice comes in at just the right moment. Oh, no. A little thing I love is that cilantro lime sauce. It's a fun blend of zesty and bold. That's what really makes me happy. Are you going to eat all your fries?
Order a Chick-fil-A Grilled Spicy Deluxe Sandwich and a Diet Dr. Pepper on the Chick-fil-A app for a limited time. Real guests paid for their testimonials.
After you use Bounce Dryer Sheets and realize how fresh, soft, less wrinkled, and less staticky your laundry can be, you'll every time. Like those socks that smell like they've been through a marathon. Or that blanket that's got wrinkles on its wrinkles. Maybe even your chatty coworker who keeps distracting you. Okay, Bounce Dryer Sheets can't do it all. But for fresher, softer, better laundry,
You're listening to SportsGrid.
Spreading the winning edge far and wide.
Terrestrial, internet, TV, satellite, and don't forget our mobile app.
Face it.
The Winning Edge is everywhere.
Somewhere there's a squirrel frustrated he can't get a phone.
This is the SportsGrid Radio Network.
Hi, welcome back. It is Football Full Circle here on the grid. Scott George Kurtz until 1 p.m. Eastern Time. Checking out the NFL scene. A lot of coaching moves. The Chicago Bears signing Ben Johnson, the next boy wonder on the sidelines, George, to be their new head coach, apparently. Before the Bears automatically make Super Bowl plans, I must say it is amazing how many people are making this guy out to be Vince Lombardi Jr. Let's just kind of cool it a little bit on Ben Johnson. Let's look at his resume, shall we? He was with the Miami Dolphins as an assistant when they fired, basically two coaches, one and then Dan Campbell, the interim guy. So he was on a staff that, two guys failed, right? He goes to Detroit, and listen, knock on wood, the Lions as a whole, whether he played a role or didn't, clearly have turned things around. Jared Goff is the quarterback that the people thought he would be when the Rams drafted him number 1 overall. He's overcome the stigma a little bit. So I'll give him credit. But I will say, George, it's just people talk about Ben Johnson like he invented football. He's the greatest offensive mind out there. Take it easy, please. It's one team. I see this in college all the time where a guy will have one great recruiting class and does well, and then gets the big monster job. And it's like, be careful, because, if you show that you can recruit 2, 3, 4 years and have, a couple of successful seasons because you're a great recruiter, okay. But, sometimes you just hit you hit the bullseye first time. That doesn't mean you're a great dart player. It just means you got lucky the first time. And I wonder that about Ben Johnson. I really do. Did he all of a sudden turn into a genius and make the Detroit Lions be better than what they really were? I got to see it to believe it. So Bears get the main guy that's on the open market, but I'm not ready to pencil in the Chicago Bears to win a Super Bowl anytime soon.
So many places to go here. Listen, he's the hot coordinator, so that's why all the pub was there. He's fun, right? With all the trick plays, probably too many, and he may have gotten burned by one, right? The Jameson Williams throw didn't work out on Saturday night, so there is that. But he's the hot coordinator. There aren't that too many of these guys around, and there's always job openings. All right, we know every year there's going to be 7 job openings, right? 6 to 8 every season. So there's always openings for these guys. I was surprised he chose Chicago, or at least moderately surprised. All right. Generally, he was probably the number one guy outside of maybe Vrabel, right? But he's the number one guy. All right. You're not going to Dallas because you're not dealing with Jerry Jones. You have a number one guy. You have choices here. Saints, no. They don't have a quarterback. Same thing with the Raiders. I don't care if Tom Brady's begging you to go. No quarterback, I ain't going. All right, Jets, that's a mess. So you sort of really had it down to Chicago or Jacksonville. And do you want Williams? Do you want Lawrence? Do you want to deal with Trent Baalke? And maybe you don't want to deal with Baalke. So you choose Chicago, but I'm a little surprised, Scott, because, boy, Detroit's still a good team. No matter what you think about Ben Johnson or Jared Goff, they're still going to be a good team, right? Green Bay, they seem to always be a good team. They're not going anywhere. And Minnesota, we'll see what J.J. McCarthy can become. I think Donald's probably gone from there. So, but they should be at least a decent team as well. So you're in a really, really rough division where you're still the worst team. And I don't care. You got Williams. You got a Dunze. Maybe you have a running attack, Swift a little bit. You got some other weapons you can use here, but you still have no offensive line. And that has to be fixed immediately or none of this is going to matter. The Lions might have the best offensive line in football. Makes life a little bit easier for anybody at quarterback when you have all day to throw, regardless of what Jared Goff did Saturday night here. So I was a little surprised he chose Chicago for that reason, but they probably did have the most offensive talent out of the teams available where he had an option where he would, like I said, realistically go to. I'll say this again. He's not going to Dallas to deal with Jerry Jones. Never was going to do that. Knows how Jerry Jones didn't even interview him because he knows that too. All right, the Raiders, nothing there. So I think I don't think I would have chosen. I probably would have, unless I hate Trent Baalke, I probably would have chose Jacksonville, easier division, maybe an easier path to making the playoffs.
Yeah, I think that's where I would have gone, Jacksonville. Unless he just doesn't believe in Trevor Lawrence. But otherwise, you have an owner that wants to spend money. I know you're flying over to Europe and you got 2 homes there. I get that. It's not a great fan base, but it is a heck of a lot warmer in Jacksonville right now than it is in Chicago. I'll tell you that. That plays a role. I'll kick back. I agree wholeheartedly with the Raiders. That's just an awful situation. You have no quarterback, no running back, no wide receiver. Your owners are bozo. I mean, you're drafting 6th because you decided to win a couple of games down the stretch. I mean, really, you're just sitting in no man's land. And you got Tom Brady looking over your shoulder. Who needs that? I would have gone to Dallas. Unless the word on the street, George, is Jerry just doesn't want to win anymore. And he made some strange moves, right? We've discussed it all season long, as everyone has, not going after certain players, Derrick Henry with the Dallas Cowboys, bringing back Zeke for whatever reason, waiting forever to pay these guys. If the word on the street is he just doesn't care anymore, then I get it. Well, let's just say this year was a one-year blip on the radar screen, right? He had too many decisions for a 75-year-old man. If he wants to win, you have your quarterback. Caleb Williams is a quarterback coach killer. You don't know after watching him for a year. I don't know if he's going to be any good. I'm not ready to throw him out with the dirty dishwater, but I'm not ready to anoint him as a C.J. Stroud or even a Jaden Daniels. I'm not sure. And if you don't win with him after 2-3 seasons as a head coach, you're going to be out the door. I'll say this about Dak Prescott. He's going to put numbers up. He's going to be successful in the regular season. Now, you're going to be judged on the postseason, as Mike McCarthy was, but I think I would have taken Dallas more than I would have Chicago.
No way in hell am I taking Dallas. Not if you're Johnson, where you have other options. I mean, Dallas will hire somebody who who can't say no. That's what they'll do. It's what they always do. Right? They can't say no, that Jerry can control everything. You're Ben Johnson. You have options. You want to deal with Jerry Jones doing a press conference every day, middling and everything. And plus, that point you made up, I don't know if Jerry cared. I don't know if Jerry's cared for a long time. He doesn't spend money. All right, people think Dallas spends money. They do not. They're generally one of the bottom teams in spending actual cash. They don't spend money. They made no moves last year. I mean, it was weird. And now we heard yesterday, before Ben Johnson was hired, that the favorite to be the Dallas head coach is Brian Schottenheimer. Scott, what's that old line you hear? Tell me you want something or you need something without telling me. Well, if they hire Brian Schottenheimer, the Cowboys, you're telling me you don't care without telling me you don't care. Because that how do you sell that to a fan? Brian Schottenheimer? Are you kidding me? Remember, they didn't interview Ben Johnson. They didn't interview Mike Vrabel. He didn't want any of the top guys. He doesn't want to pay them. Ben Johnson got $13 million from Chicago. Jerry's not paying half that to any head coach. He's not. I mean, so Ben Johnson, there's no way I'm dealing with Jerry. I'm not. Maybe at one point, 10, 15, 20 years ago, sure, when I think he did care more about winning. He don't care. He just wants to run the team. I mean, that's all he wants to do. Job for life, everything else.
He's running it into the ground.
Ben Johnson. And he don't care.
He's running.
There's been 30 years since they made a change. He doesn't care, or he doesn't realize that he's running it to the ground, which means he's mentally declining. He doesn't get it. But 15 years ago was the same thing. He didn't care then. 15 years later, doesn't care now.
I just never thought I'd ever hear that from Jerry Jones. The way he does his press conferences and seemingly cares and maybe he's just a media whore versus really wanting to win.
There's definitely that.
I mean, his club is worth what, $10 billion, literally, and probably even more. I mean, he's got to worry about paying $1 million extra or two for a head coach. I mean, that's a blip on the radar screen. You go to any bank in the world and say, I'm the owner of the Cowboys, I need a couple of dollars, and they would be fawning over you. It's the weirdest
Outside
thing.
of Bill Parcells, he's hired clowns. He's hired absolute clowns since Jimmy Johnson, outside of Parcells.
But he's loyal.
Right? He needed Parcells.
But he is loyal. Right?
Yes.
And if you're Ben
is.
Johnson,
yes.
you're going to get 5 years. You don't know that in Chicago. Like I said, he fails in Chicago first 2-3 seasons.
If I have options, I'm not dealing with Jerry.
He's
Plus
so
everything that comes
old,
along with the Cowboys.
You can manipulate Jerry at this point. Dude's what, 75? Closing in on 80? I think.
He's closer to 80, isn't he?
He might be 80. You can manipulate the old man.
82. I gotta look like.
Yeah, 82.
He's Skeletor.
More coming up.
We're not saying every SportsGrid listener is a legend, but you might start thinking about who's going to play you in the movie. Just saying. This is the SportsGrid Radio Network.
Residents across the country are bracing for dangerously low temperatures while the East Coast contends with a thick blanket of snow and the South prepares for a rare winter storm expected to disrupt travel into Wednesday. With the SportsGrid News Flash, I'm Trey Westerberg. This update brought to you by Progressive. Winter storm warnings stretch from Texas to Florida on Monday with heavy snow, sleet, and freezing rain expected in the region into Wednesday. Heavy lake effect snow is expected in western New York State Monday through Wednesday morning with 1 to 2 feet possible in some areas. Donald J. Trump was sworn in as the 47th President of the United States on Monday. Trump takes charge as Republicans claim unified control of Washington. Speaking in the Capitol Rotunda Monday, Trump promised sweeping change to, quote, completely and totally reverse the Biden era and pledged to pursue policy that expands U.S. territory, including putting U.S. astronauts on Mars. I'm Trey Westerberg with the SportsGrid News Flash.
With Progressive's Name Your Price tool, you get coverage options based on how much you want to pay for car insurance. And then you decide how to spend the rest of your money, because you're in charge. And right now, you're going to pay for groceries. But you decide what groceries. Just keep in mind you're running out of dishwashing soap. But you decide if you're going to buy that soap. It's just those dishes won't clean themselves, will they? Remember, with Progressive's Name Your Price tool, we'll help you find coverage at a fair price. And then you're in charge. Progressive Casualty Insurance Company and affiliates. Not available in all states. Price and coverage match limited by state law.
My doctor told me my cholesterol is borderline. So I took control with Garlic Healthy Cholesterol Formula. Garlic helps maintain healthy cholesterol safely and naturally. It's odor and taste-free, and Garlic is a world leader in garlic potency. I'm taking charge of my cholesterol with Garlic Healthy Cholesterol Formula, cholesterol's natural enemy.
These statements have not been evaluated by the FDA. This product is not intended to diagnose, treat, cure, or prevent any disease. The term natural references only the garlic in the product. Use as directed.
Ask any player and they'll tell you any advantage is important. That's where we come in. SportsGrid delivers gaming strategies and analysis 7 days a week.
The winning edge.
It's your advantage to more winning more often. This is the SportsGrid Radio Network.
All right, welcome back. It is Football Full Circle here on the Grid. Scott and George talking some NFL. Dallas Cowboys openings for the most part around the NFL. And Dallas, Georgia, they have not gotten their head coach. Neither has anyone else outside of Vrabel and now the Chicago Bears. So is this going to start the domino? It's taking a little bit longer than normal. We'll start with your beloved Cowboys. So you really think it's going to be Brian Schottenheimer? Or is there any other dark horse? Would they call up Jason Garrett again? Bring him back? Is that a possibility? I mean, it's amazing.
See,
how
now you're just
really
trying to hurt me. You're just
names.
trying to hurt me now. Schottenheimer now, Garrett. I want to get Barry Switzer back, too. We'll see how that works out. As for the Cowboys here,
Hey, Jimmy's
Detroit
still out
losing.
there. Jimmy Johnson. You really want to go back to the heydays and bury.
Couldn't be so lucky.
Bury the wood.
Couldn't be so lucky as to get JJ back. Detroit Lions losing on Saturday opened the NFL dominoes, right? That started the NFL dominoes. Ben Johnson. I do expect Aaron Glenn to get hired. He's meeting with the Jets today. Maybe he doesn't even get out of New Jersey before they hire him. I think he has a meeting with New Orleans later this week. Mike McCarthy also has a meeting with New Orleans, I believe, tomorrow. So I think the NFL dominoes have started here. For the Cowboys, I truly believe. I mean, as a fan, Scott, please, that was just either a smokescreen or JJ just want to throw something out there and see what's happening. With Schottenheimer. They can't hire Schottenheimer. That would be a disaster. It'd be an absolute disaster. Dion, don't see it. Because what were you and I talking about last segment? All right, Jerry Jones loves the spotlight. Dion is the one coach who would take that from him, right? Because now you're going to have media who maybe want to go see Dion more than JJ, because Dion might say something too. So I don't see him hiring Dion. I thought before it started that it was going to be Kellen Moore. And listen, you can tell from my voice, I'm not thrilled about it, but he was with Dallas. He knows Dak. The last time he was the OC with the Cowboys, Dak led the league in passing, 37 touchdowns. It is what it is. He's familiar with the Cowboys. Once again, he doesn't have enough cachet to say no, so Jerry Jones will still be able to do what he does here. And I think the Cowboys will go with an offensive guy because they need to get Dak fixed. Remember, the Cowboys were terrible with Dak last year. They actually were better with Cooper Rush. As far as the numbers going to be, listen, they still suck, but they were better with Rush. So Dak was awful. So they need to fix him, get him back on track here, at least in the regular season. As you said, they win during the regular season with Dak. It's during the playoffs they can't win with him. So I'm still going there. I think it's going to be Kellen Moore. I think it's why you're not hearing much here, because they have to wait until Philadelphia loses, or during Super Bowl week they can interview him. So I think we'll find out more Kellen Moore next week. I don't think it'll be Dion. I really hope it's not Schottenheimer. I know they interviewed Leslie Frazier yesterday. I don't see it being that. I think Robert Saleh, he could be a dark horse. I think he might be my dark horse.
Oh, he would be like last on my list. If he couldn't handle the pressure of being the New York Jet head coach, now he's going to go down to Dallas and deal with Jerry and then the media down there. I mean, he was a deer in headlights here in New York, Joe. You know that. I mean, that would be. I know. I've read his name. It's just like, wow. He would
There's
be good for
nobody
like
out
Tennessee,
there that I'm dying for.
Jacksonville. So, yeah, there's got to be some like coordinator behind the scenes that maybe doesn't get the publicity. I've always said. And I still believe this. I don't care if he's a good coordinator or not. I really don't. Now, you'd like him to be just because that would be good on the resume. But ultimately, most head coaches are no longer coordinators when they become head coaches. Most head coaches
Jerry Jones prefers you to be, though.
Coordinator. Well,
Jerry Jones wants you to be one. I mean, he's actually said that. Remember, think of this. I mean, this drives me insane as a Cowboy fan. Mike McCarthy was the one who got rid of Kellen Moore. And he got rid of him. Remember what he said last year when they got rid of him? Well, all Kellen Moore cares about is scoring points. And? What's the problem?
Yeah, exactly.
I know what he meant, that he did. Maybe he's not running the ball, not protecting the defense and the time of possession. But Mike, his job is to score points. All right, you didn't do that. But I mean, when he said that, I'm like, do you think about what you say before you say it? I mean, it's like, but like I said, I think Kellen Moore makes more sense here. Is there a coordinator out there that it could be? Well, listen, if they don't hire any of the guys we named, it's going to be someone we're like, oh, didn't see that coming. It'll be that kind of guy. But Jerry Jones does prefer that the head coach be still the coordinator on one side of the ball. At least have a big say. Now look at Jimmy Johnson, guy who's just controlling the team here, making decisions. He wants you to be a coordinator. Which, agree with it or not, it's what he likes.
I actually agree with it. I mean. We'll take Ben Johnson and the Bears, right? Why are you hiring Ben Johnson? Well, because he did such a great job with Jared Goff and the offense with the Detroit Lions. Exactly. So you're going to hire him now because you want him to hire an offensive coordinator and him not be hands-on? No, you're hiring him because you want him to work with Caleb Williams and run the Chicago Bears offense. So I'm actually okay with that. I really am. But it goes back to what I said originally. I don't necessarily care if you're a good coordinator or not, because 9 times out of 10, that's not going to be your role as the head coach. Your role as the head coach is to run things, not run the offense. It's just run the whole kit and caboodle. So, you hire a guy in the NFL based on, okay, you're moving up the chain and you did such a great job as a coordinator. Now we're going to hire you as the head coach. It's kind of like in sales. You go from the salesperson to the sales manager. Sales manager is not going out there making sales, but he oversees it all. And that's kind of what the head coach needs to be. So if you're not the greatest coordinator in the world, but you're great organizing things and working with people and motivating people, boom, there you go. That's my head coach. I'd rather have that than the guy who's, a good coordinator, but can't handle things and doesn't know how to call a play or doesn't know how to run things and use timeouts and, challenges and all the things that a head coach needs to do. So, I forgot about the Saints one. Who would want the Saints job too? Talk about you're in a decent division. That's
it. That's a selling point. You're in salary cap hell. You don't have a quarterback. You're going to retain Derek Carr. I mean, that's a tough sell of a Saints. Like I said, I think Aaron Glenn or McCarthy ends up there. That wouldn't surprise me here. But I think that out of all, man, I don't want the Raiders either. Saints and Raiders are probably the 2 jobs I just don't want, because that's a major rebuild, both teams. And the Raiders, by the way, that's gonna be fun playing Patrick Mahomes, Justin Herbert, and listen, Bo Nix looks like he might be something too. No thanks, I'll pass.
Yeah, that's probably the worst. It really is. I mean, no quarterback, no wide receiver, no running back, and you're in a division with Patrick Mahomes, Justin Herbert, and now Bo Nix. Good luck. Oh man, that is bad. All right, Football Full Circle continues here on the grid. Scott and George until Eastern
time. Luck is winning the lottery. Strategy is settling your divorce before cashing in the ticket. It's smarter to be on SportsGrid. Get the winning edge. This is the SportsGrid Radio Network. SportsGrid TV and radio networks are the premier streaming video and audio channels dedicated to serving the sports wagering audience. Found on major smart TV platforms and streaming on SportsGrid Radio and SiriusXM Channel 159. SportsGrid's real-time data, expert commentary, and entertaining analysis transform viewers into informed sports enthusiasts. Our weekday radio lineup begins with the early line at 8 a.m. Eastern with Ben Stevens and Donnie Rightside. Donnie joins Kevin Walsh on Moneyline at 11 a.m. Eastern, followed by Football Full Circle at noon Eastern. Kaplan and crew join the party at 1 p.m. Eastern, and Pharrell Coast to Coast keeps things rolling from 3 to 6 p.m. Eastern. Get in the mix with Kevin Walsh and Game Time Decisions at 6 p.m. Eastern. Evenings simmer with Carver and Lisi, then boils over with Gabe Moritzi on Sports Rage Late Night at 10 p.m. Eastern. To find out where to find SportsGrid that's best for you, go to sportsgrid.com. It's smarter to be on SportsGrid.
How would you like to get high-speed internet for your home for less than $2 a day? That's right. For about $50 a month, you'll get lightning-fast internet. Are you paying less than $50 a month right now for your internet? Then call Whole Home Connect right now for blazing fast internet at $50 a month with no price increases, no hidden fees, no contracts, no upfront costs, no equipment fees. It's a great deal. And guess what? You can try it for 15 days. If you don't like it, you get your money back. But you're gonna love it, and you're gonna love the price. Internet for your home for $50 a month. That's less than $2 a day. Plus, no contracts, no upfront costs, no equipment fees, and our 15-day guarantee. Call now. 800-797-1292. 800-797-1292. 800-797-1292. That's 800-797-1292.
Think of us as your cool roommate that has this innate gift of somehow always picking winners and never bugs you about doing the dishes or paying rent. Sports gaming strategies and information 24/7. Get the winning edge. This is the SportsGrid Radio Network.
All right, welcome back in Game Live. In Game Live. It's Football Full Circle. I do too many shows here on the grid. Scott and George for another couple minutes here, closing out Football Full Circle on a Tuesday. So we were talking to some of the NFL head coaches and this and that. The Jacksonville one to me is intriguing. You got a division that's winnable. You seemingly have a quarterback. You have an owner that's willing to spend some money, I think, that really does want to win. Now, he's got this attachment with Europe, and he's signing up all the time. Maybe you convince him not to do that every single year because it would be nice for them for the play. And there was a time where Jacksonville, they've had some good teams down there. Whether it was the Scott or the Mark Brunell teams from yesteryear, or just even fast 4 or 5 years, they almost made the Super Bowl if they would have beat the Patriots. And a game that they actually had in the bag almost. But that said, I think that's the one. Jets are a mess. Raiders are a mess. Saints have nothing. There's not a whole heck of a lot out there. Only 2 quarterbacks in the draft. You're gonna. I'm curious to see, George. Which one of these quarterbacks gets a second shot? Is Danny Nichols, as I like to call him, Danny Dimes? Is someone going to bring him in and give him a starting job? Carson Wentz got a shot to get a starting job.
No.
It's a lot of mediocre quarterbacks, but there's only so many good quarterbacks. I mean, someone's got to be, starters. The Raiders got to have somebody. The Saints got to have somebody. You got to really go back to Derek Carr. Oof.
He'll probably get a starting job somewhere. I mean, because you said teams that don't have starting quarterbacks. I mean, the Jets, right? Someone's got a quarterback. The Jets. I don't think it'll be Aaron Rodgers. Maybe it is, but someone's got a quarterback there. Pittsburgh. Do you think? I don't think Russell Wilson's coming back. I'm not sure about they're going to go with. I don't think it's Russell Wilson. I think may go with somebody else, the Raiders, something like that. I think Daniel Jones will get a starting job with somebody once again. Even the teams that draft Shedeur Sanders or Cam Ward, they'll need a starting. I think they'll need a starting quarterback for a little bit. Maybe they go with that person from day one. Who's starting in Cleveland? Deshaun Watson's not going to be ready by September. They don't want Jameis Winston, so that's a quarterback we need there. And you go up and down the list here. Tennessee, okay, they're probably drafting one, so they'll solve their problem there. What's going on with the Giants? Once again, they hope they're drafting, but if quarterbacks go 1-2, if Cleveland takes a quarterback at 2, we know Tennessee's going to take one at 1. The Giants left out in the cold, so who's going to be quarterback in there? I mean, are you going? I don't see Sam Darnold making it. You talk about one of the retreads here. Maybe Russell Wilson goes there. I mean, you go up and down the list here. There are a lot of teams that, not a lot, but a decent amount of teams. Saints need a quarterback. All right. So I think that's it as far as teams, right? That would be it unless there's a surprise release.
Yeah.
Geno Smith gets released by Seattle or something like that. So there's about 6 to 8 teams that need a quarterback. So, yeah, we're going to see retreads. We are. There's not enough to go around. I think for me, the most interesting situation, Scott, is I assume Minnesota's moving on from Sam Darnold because you have J.J. McCarthy. You don't want to pay the freight. Because someone's going to offer him that contract. I don't know, $35 million a year for 4 years, whatever it might be. Someone's going to offer him that because there are too many teams that don't have it. I wonder, will it be Minnesota? Will they franchise him to keep him another year? And then let him move on after that? I think Minnesota with Darnold and McCarthy is very interesting.
I'm curious to see what the Browns do, right? If you offered it up, if Cleveland told the Giants and whoever, I'll give you the number 2 overall pick, but you have to take Deshaun Watson off our hands and just rid themselves of Watson in the whole situation. Now we'll just say it's the Giants. Now you get the Giants' 4th overall pick, which isn't bad. And they're going to probably maybe have to throw in a 2 or a 3 or something along those lines. But the main thing is you're getting underneath that stench of Deshaun Watson. I don't know.
I don't see Wellington Mara doing that because now he's got the stench of Deshaun Watson. I think the Browns would do it in a heartbeat.
Yeah, but it wasn't your stench. You didn't create this stench. You just happened to move into a house that had a backyard.
You're still going to eat it.
Didn't have
it's New York. It's New York.
Yeah, but look what New York has done, George. I still, as a Giant fan, I still can't believe they did this 2 years in a row. They went 4-3 last year, and then they win against the Colts this season to blow the number 1 overall seed. I wouldn't have brought back Dable and Shane just because of their stupidity. I mean, and really, it's the whole Giant organization. If I'm Mara, I would have gone to those guys and said, you know what, there's 2 weeks left. We're sitting in the number 1 spot. I'm bringing you back, okay? I'm bringing you back. Do what you need to do to finish the season the right way. And yet they win a football game.
I might go real quick more on this, though. What does Dion? Does he want his son to go to Cleveland at 2? If Cam Ward goes 1, that could mess things up too.
Yeah, that could. Interesting. George, great job as always. We'll do it again soon.
You found the advantage for gaming, odds, and more. But we call it the winning edge for short. This is the SportsGrid Radio Network.